someone ready to go.
Okay, welcome to the regular council meeting. The date is Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, and 6:01. We'll call the meeting to order. Do I have a motion to move into the closed portion of our meeting?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councillor Broughton, seconded by Councillor Abbott. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay. The regular council meeting, the date is Tuesday, January 21st. The time is 7:04. We'll call the meeting to order. There is nothing to report out of the closed portion of the meeting previously held. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, I'll move by Councillor Abbott, seconded by Councillor Broughton. All in favor? Or, sorry, is there any amendments to the agenda?
Just to readjust those.
Okay, just the CEO has asked to readjust 8.1.1 down to the 8.1.3 portion, and that is the finance budget, just so that we can ensure that we get some of the other areas covered off. Any other amendments?
Yeah, just a couple of things. So just as we discussed earlier, there was no climate action meeting discussion in closed. Says there was, there's nothing, no climate action discussion in closed, so we open. On point 4, I guess we've got to fill in the dates. Not mentioned there, Ross. On item 8.2.1, infrastructure committee. So those budgets recommendations need to be discussed at the same time as the budget recommendation. 8.1.1.
Okay.
So the report.
They're one after another, so that makes sense.
Yeah, well, so it needs to move up to the point we're discussing the budget.
Okay.
Item 8.2.2 is not a budget recommendation. So that's probably labeled wrong. We could take out the word budget there. It's just a recommendation to council from the Climate Action Committee, and that we can discuss separately. It has no budget impact on this year's budget.
Okay, any other amendments? Okay, all in favor with the amendments mentioned?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, one item I forgot to do was roll call. Councillor Broughton present, Councillor Cunliffe present, Councillor Abbott present, Mayor present, Councillor Reuter absent. Okay, we'll move on to public participation. And I have 3 individuals signed up, and we'll have Morgan Gatto, if you'll take the podium.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, Council, fellow residents. I just want to say very briefly pertaining to the Beach Park Revitalization Project that I feel there is a very strong disconnect within the project. And to elaborate on that, I think the architect, I believe that's you, did a nice presentation the other night. There's been a lot of feedback from it. I'm not here to comment on it, but I'm here to comment on how the project was portrayed in his drawings. It gives me a sense that he wasn't given very clear instructions. We can talk about the fact that the project's not even on our property, and I don't know the details on that. But I truly feel between the architect council only seeing this iteration, I believe, a couple of days prior to the open house, that I take it back to administration that there's something breaking down somewhere along the line. And I can't pin it down. I'll leave that to you guys to figure that out. But I truly feel we need to back this up, stop the process, and figure out how we can get proper resident consultation to give the guidance to the architect to make this project work. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, next person, Tavian, I believe, if I'm pronouncing that correct. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Tavian.
I am here to just talk really briefly, like Morgan, about the beach project. I spoke directly with a lot of members of the community and have received a lot of feedback on the architectural project at the beach, specifically the building. The rest of the beach people seem pretty unanimous about like playground and gazebo and kayak storage. But about the building, people seem a little hesitant, especially about building on land that we don't own and that there may or may not be 42 years remaining on the lease. And that seems to be a big worry, especially if the marina wants that land back or if the rail needs to build on there for any reason. And that anything we build there, we want to last more than 42 years. And that could cause a huge complication, especially if we build a massive building on it. Furthermore, there seems to be some really specific needs to be met. First and foremost, one of the most important things was kayak storage, having it in back of the building. Just for a little feedback, I think we had a brief email. Was that people would have to walk through, people sitting and walking around to get to the kayaks, and they need them down by the water where they won't be interrupting the other beachgoers. Furthermore, there is people were worried that people playing in the green space might hit people who are going to the bathrooms as the doors face the people who might be using the green space facilities. And people wanted more coverage seating and felt that while the building is beautiful and we can all attest that we've done a great job, we need a more effective covered area where people can have meetings or celebrations. And so I feel like there is a disconnect between what the community really needs from an effective and purposeful and beautiful space at the beach and what was presented to us. No, a woman did a great job, but there seems to be, I don't know the pipeline of how the community gives information or what their desires might be to who designs the space and who discusses the space. And I think we can really shrink that building size, bring down the costs, still pass the budget, and make a more effective community desired space. Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, and next is Louise. Larissa.
Yeah, and I don't, after Morgan and Tevye, I don't have too much more to say. I think my concerns were the positioning of the property on land that the village doesn't own, which may or may not be true, but that was a concern I had. The kayak location, making it streamlined so they're not getting in the way of beachgoers when they're taking their kayaks down. So, and I'll echo Tevye in that I feel there wasn't a lot of time to look at what was proposed and give my feedback. I wasn't able to make the last meeting, but at more than one date, so villagers have an opportunity to get here to see what's planned and give commentary. And to give commentary, to a prospect proposal, and then the final would be nice. And I don't feel I got that. So I just wanted to, that would have been nice to have had. But I thought I shared more than Tevye's concerns.
All right, thank you for those comments. Anyone else in the gallery before we go online? No? Okay, anyone online? You'll raise your hand, please. Yeah. Seeing, okay, no one online raising your hand. If not, we'll move to the next item then, delegations. And that would be Bear Smart Committee, Norma Rogers.
Hi. The Bear Smart Committee 2024 annual report details extensive education and outreach. Some residents complain that Bear Smart Committee publishes too many notices, and they mistake the messages as our own. We are communicating recommendations and requirements outlined in the Lions Bay Bear Management Plan that follows Bear Smart Community Status Guidelines. I have heard council members suggest that the Bear Smart Committee should do more education rather than rely on bylaws. But look at our record. How could we do more? The Bear Smart Committee had a first meeting January 15 and outlined our plans for 2025. Create a bear report about garbage container options. Arrange education at the school in March. Distribute What If I See a Bear postcard in April. Continue bear education notices in the village update. Continue to create bear information articles and posts for local media and Facebook. Attend community events to educate residents. Continue working with the COS and village administration through the Bear Working Group to maintain Bear Smart community status. The Bear Smart Committee works hard to educate residents for the safety of people and bears. We're lucky to live in a rural forested environment, but we have the responsibility to peacefully coexist with the area's wildlife. And this means taking more care with garbage and food waste. Most residents love living near bears and support Bear Smart, including the inconvenience of staggered garbage pickup times. Since some residents ignore rules that have been put in place to reduce human bear conflict, bylaw enforcement is necessary. Even though a few complain or are penalized, it is for the greater good of the community. Lions Bay has by far the smallest population of any Bear Smart community and no urban areas. That gives us the flexibility to tailor our bylaws to limit the amount of time garbage or food waste is placed roadside and available to wildlife. The village could explore options such as neighborhood garbage disposal sites or more bear-proof bins. But with our current waste management practices in place, we need to find a way to enforce garbage bylaws. The Bear Smart Committee does not deserve the criticism from residents and council we have experienced in the past few years. The committee is not political and has no power or influence other than Councillor Abbott being a bear advocate and one vote on council. The Bear Smart Committee works to maintain Bear Smart community status. So if council supports Bear Smart, they need to support our committee. If council members have any questions or comments, I would prefer to hear them now when I have the opportunity to respond, rather than later in the meeting. Questions or comments?
Well, normally I'd like to say thanks to you and your team for all the hard work they do. I am very aware of how much time it takes, including all the education, which has really started this year in the school. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Norma.
Okay, thank you. And next will be Brenda Broughton, Beach Park.
Thank you very much, and I brought a copy of my literal presentation for each of you and one for the notes, if you like. And Russ is just gonna follow me in about 5 minutes. Good evening, Mayor Barry and Lions Bay Village Council and our administrator, Mr. Roa. As a resident of over 50 years and as a five-term, mayor, I wish to provide the rationale for maintaining the current flat beach park grass playing field as one of our 2 playing fields in the village used often for varied community use. Further, as the organizer and or participant of a significant number of events at the beach park, serving all ages, I am aware of the negative impact the current proposed washroom design, location, and orientation of the washroom would have completely unnecessarily. The imposition of a building there will have a negative effect on the use of this area, not enhancing, rather reducing the usage. Affecting daily use, impacting the many events that occur there, such as Easter, including races. I don't know, this is where the imagination has to understand how we use it. Canada Day, Firefighters Day, weddings, birthday parties, occasions like the white dinner, barbecues, soccer, volleyball, baseball pitch, running around, etc. I advocate and support that the location of the washroom be built solely on Lions Bay owned land, not leased land, and it is leased land. It is not justifiable to build on leased land. Recommendation, turn the washroom design 90 degrees, placing the overall washroom design further south, orient the patio to the north side, graciously integrating the grassed area with the patio area. That the flat grass playing field remain in its full north-south length. This playing field is a strong community asset and should not be shortened. It is not justifiable to harm one community asset to build another, and completely unnecessary. The strongest community asset of the two is the grass playing field. That safety not be compromised by positioning this washroom with people exiting onto the active playing field and potentially being hurt. The orientation of the washroom turned 90 degrees to be built on Lions Bay land, enabling people on the beach to see the washroom entrances with loved ones, friends, neighbors visible for their care. And that was one of the things that people wanted. They wanted to be able to see from the beach. That the kayak storage remain in the current location on the northern fence to enable ease and safety of water access without harm to beach sunbathers and without harm to the small watercraft scraping through the beach area log booms. There is no entry from the Lions Bay Beach Park to the marina for loading kayaks or anything on the south side. The marina, Lions Bay Beach Park, has a permanently locked gate. This is apparently not understood. The marina has apparently required a locked gate. So in summary, it is not justifiable to build on leased land. And turning the design 90 degrees will be effective. The two children play states require an open house. And, you might think, oh, this road needs a life change. I've been involved in such a myriad of projects from beginning to end in Lions Bay, from envisioning to actually ribbon cutting. And change has occurred many, many times, including the old playscape to this newer playscape, and now this newer playscape to another playscape. This is all good, but it needs to be involving community input. It's a vitally important project. We cannot think about improving one asset while destroying another or harming another. And I don't want to keep repeating myself, flatland is rare in Lions Bay. But just some of the projects, putting in magnesia water intake, twinning the ultraviolet with magnesia and Harvey, envisioning, advocating for the school, sitting on the design committee for the school, being the PAC charter chair, fundraising for furniture for the school, et cetera, right through to, being the counselor in charge of fire, opening that fire building, funding the fire building, the Centennial Trail, the community hall upgrade, just all working with, oh, come on up, Brett. All working with teams, with input from the community, so successfully.
Thank you very much, Brenda, for all that.
Evening Mayor, Council, project team, villagers. Russ Mickeljohn, Director, I live at 59 Brunswick. We've been involved with this project for an awfully long time. Back from the original proposal, I got the grants back in, I think, 2018. In 2023, we were hard and worked with the committee to come up with a design with the project brief that we had. As of just before Christmas 2023, we had a building permit. We were on budget with the delivery model with Morgan Gatto. That was the delivery model given to us. It was determined that this actually had a good piece of bid. Came in over budget, not crazily over budget, closer than any of us expected. But it was determined that it was over budget and that was problematic and disappointing to us on the building side because the playground, I think, was probably 2.5 times the original budget, but that was okay. But anyways, this is where we are. I have no interest in rewriting history. I think we all want to get this done. We're all in it for the long haul, and I just wanted to have the opportunity to thank all the people who did volunteer for all those years, all those committees and all those unpaid hours and evenings, and I don't know that at the end of the day that really got recognized. There's lots of fatigue about the project. For council, the villagers, it's like, let's just get on with it. I think we all want to get on with this as long as it makes sense what we're getting on with. And I understand project team, if you take a fresh eye and you walk into the park, say, there's a nice big flat piece of land here, why don't we use that? Why are we making this so difficult? But it is leased land. I'm sure it's got some geotechnical issues, the way it falls back down to the marina property. But I think there's a couple of questions. Can we build on it? Should we build on it? Can we build on it is problematic in that we can call it a tenant improvement if you like, but it only happens from a permitting perspective with an owner's authorization. So we can't bypass the fact that the owner needs to be on board with doing that. I don't know if anybody's talked to him. I think as a permitting exercise is further complicated by the fact that the current siting straddles those two lots, which are separately legal entities. So I don't know what you do about setbacks and agreements, and I don't know if anybody's checked into, does building on leased land meet the criteria for our grants? That's very significant. And I don't know if the grant wording is viewed on that. Anyways, can we build on it? I don't think we know. Can meet all these criteria. Should we build on it? I think Brenda's made a very compelling case for not giving up this rare flat playscape. And I think if no to can we or should we is the answer, then I think we got to back up and say, well, where can we cite this on the property that we own? I don't think council knows enough to say yes to anything tonight. Point out that the aggressive timeline, which is not impossible, it's aggressive, would be to get the park opened, I believe on July 1st was the target, more or less, but in the summer sometime. The real drop dead date is March of next year. So it's not like you need to start right now. Taking your head, so the project timeline that's put forward in terms of permitting, mobilizing, building, what was the completion date intended in that?
Mr. Blackwell, do you want to answer now, or would you like to?
Sure, I can. The target completion would be May 31st.
Okay. Even more aggressive. Okay. I think if there's a reciting happening here, I think there's lots of things may happen with the design, and that's not, Brenda's had some good suggestions. I think in terms of character, I think you've got a nice, simple building, you know, simple canted roof with the two-story windows. Hard to argue with that. Our design had the same thing. I think it's a nice, elegant approach. For me, the material palette is very heavy, not beachy, doesn't say Lions Bay to me. I heard a lot of those kind of comments in the meeting. I think it's unfortunate
I'll just mention that 10 minutes is up, so if you can summarize,
yeah,
that would be wonderful.
I will
Thank
definitely
you.
do that. As Morgan has said, I think it's unfortunate that we all see this a week before we're saying we should be approving it. I don't think that's realistic, but I really hope this is a positive unifying project for the village. It really should be something that we're all celebrating about and not trying to decide whose team we're on, because we should all be on the same team, and hopefully, yeah, more information, and yes, let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the speakers this evening. It's very helpful. There was no other delegations, was there? No, okay. All right, we'll move to item number 7, approval of the minutes. We have motion to approve July 16th, 2024.
So moved.
Second. Okay, seconded by Councillor Cunliffe, moved by Councillor Broughton. Any amendments, edits? That's on page 11.
Just give us a second.
So the July
July 16th.
July
16th
16th,
minutes
2024.
are the ones that we previously tabled, because in a motion that Councillor Roy put forward, that I seconded, that subsequently Jamie and both Michael both seconded, but a little confusing in that meeting. But this is the October 15th meeting, and I don't want to go back into that, but we did table these minutes, and because we wanted to have a closed discussion on one of the items. So I think we should leave them tabled until we have that, and we should get that discussion on the next appropriate closed meeting.
Okay, motion to table, is that,
To remain tabled, they have been tabled.
before we go in for a motion, Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you. So just for council's information, all that you are doing here tonight is assessing the accuracy of the minutes. If there's any matter that you wish to discuss and closed, you're entitled to do so at any time to move into close, whether it be today or any point in the future, but that doesn't have a material effect on whether these minutes reflect proceedings of council. That's all you're adjudicating on is, do these minutes properly reflect the meeting of council?
Okay,
That's all. That's all.
all right, we have a motion to approve, we've got a second. Any further comments?
Just further comment, yes, I think the accuracy of the minutes is part of that discussion that needs to happen in close.
And I would agree with that.
Okay, a motion to defer, or motion to approve, sorry, is on the table. All in favor of approving?
Sorry if I could, if there's some motion to table, it takes precedent.
Okay, is there a motion to table?
A motion for them to remain tabled, they have been already, but yes, a motion to table, if it needs to be done again.
Okay,
Second.
second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes,
Opposed? Okay, motion defeated. Okay, motion to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
opposed,
Okay, motion defeated. Okay, next item, minutes from December 10th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Council Broughton, seconded.
I'll second it.
Okay, Council Abbott, second. Discussion.
I have, so once again, we don't have the matters arising as a subsection anymore. I think it would be simpler if we did, but I have a matter arising from those minutes, not part of the approval. How are we gonna handle that? We used to do approval of the minutes followed by matters arising.
Okay, we've already approved the agenda. Mr. Blackwell, comments?
Yeah, so apologies. So we're trying to work out the kinks in this with this particular new software. Matters arising should always be in the agenda, and I didn't catch it. It's not.
I didn't see it till now.
Yeah, nor did I. So that's something that we're gonna take note of.
So what do we want
How
to
do you
do?
want to handle that, Mr. Blackwell?
Do you want to do it by the book or just do what you need to do to get things done? Which one do you want?
Thinking
Well,
that
can
in
we
the,
put that on a to-do list that we have?
Well, yeah, I'll make sure it's for the next meeting.
Yeah.
That's
in the interest of time of not talking about, I'd suggest that we deal with the matter.
Okay.
Matter arising.
All in favor of the minutes, December 10th, 2024? Call the question, all in favor?
I'm sorry.
So we're approving the minutes now,
We're
we'll do matters
approving the
arising
minutes and
afterwards.
then-
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Blackwell.
Okay.
What we do?
Okay, all in favor?
Yes,
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, motion to approve June 4th, 2024 minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
moving forward.
Moved by Council Broughton, second by Council Abbott. Discussion. All in favor?
Yes,
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, reports, we'll go right to report 8.1.2, housing needs report, Village of Lions Bay background report for information. Proposed appendix, November
So-
2021, one moment please, and I'll just read it off and then I'll ask Mr. Blackwell to comment on it.
I thought we were gonna do matters arising now.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, you can do that, yeah, you can.
So we're gonna do the matters arising before we get to the next
If
step.
you wish, you can jump in, it's not in here, but should be good.
That's fine. Oh, matters arising.
Okay, so the matters arising I had was from the, December 10 minutes. On page 16 of the package, I'm using the original package, hope the numbers didn't change. So there's a statement in here, in response to the question, Ross Blackwell, Chief Administrative Officer, confirmed that business arising from the minute meetings would, and an action log would be included in future meetings. And there's a similar statement a little further down, where again, the CEO confirmed that all outstanding action items would be added to the action log. We still don't have that action log, came up again in the last meeting. Can we get a commitment to have an action log in this package going forward?
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. So, yeah, we've discussed this and I've indicated that that's absolutely the intention. Staff resources have been extremely pressed. On top of normal things, staff, person that would be doing this has been largely sequestered 100% to respond to FOI requests. And they have spent somewhere in the order of, I'm guessing at this point, about 60 to 70 hours solely dedicated to FOIs. So it's hard to get all the work done. So apologies for it not being faster. It's absolutely a priority, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can.
All right.
I'd like to make a comment on the
Councillor
FOIs,
Collins.
perhaps an education piece in the VU to residents of what an FOI actually entails, what the process is, what resources are dedicated to it, the reality of an FOI is paramount as to the necessity, not everything, possibly somebody might reconsider their need for an FOI if they are fully educated into the time and resources that go into the process. And that speaks to what then is now being left off the plate, so to speak. So if you think that that might be valuable.
All right, good comment. I'd also like to add the FOI requests. I know some other communities, when someone requests them, if you could publish them or have a list of them published somewhere so that everyone has an opportunity to see that FOI request, and it's not just held by one individual requesting that and then distributed as or disseminated selectively. Yeah.
So I can advise that's what many municipalities do. There's information that cannot be shared, but we can certainly track the number. And so at a sort of a basic level, we can provide that. I've been talking to Ms. Kenna about that, our deputy corporate officer. And that's also what we're to do, is to build that and post it on our website so people can track the number and the status.
Okay, great. Councillor Barton.
Can anyone request a freedom of information anywhere in the province
Yes.
of anything? So there's no limitation, it's just a matter of charging beyond 3 hours
No.
of staff time.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
No, you charge people for information that they're requesting that does not pertain to themselves. But if they can send in 50 FOIs about their own files, and it could take an entire year of staff time to do nothing but respond to FOIs. And there's nothing we can do about it. And even the amount that municipalities can charge is not even close to recapturing the costs.
And that's strictly for FOIs not pertaining to their own
Period.
personal.
Yeah, so yeah, for FOIs not pertaining to the individual, our ability to charge kicks in after 3 hours. That's a big chunk of someone's fee. If it's only one staff person that's responsible for that whole realm, and it's only a small dollar figure that can be charged.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, we'll move on to housing needs. And the Village of Lions Bay background report for information. Is proposed appendix for November 2021 housing needs information report. Combined Village of Lions Bay final report for information. Mr. Blackwell, if you can give us just a summary, and then, as my understanding is, this is just for information, it doesn't need council approval.
That's correct. It's just for
Overview.
information. Thank you. So joining us tonight is Eric White. As an interesting side note, his father was my thesis advisor when I did my master's thesis, urban design guidelines for the Versatile shipyard site. So Eric is taken on this project, and he is pursuant to the province's legislative requirement, providing an update to the existing housing needs report. And he is with us tonight to present. So Eric, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, Ross. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a short PowerPoint presentation. If you could make me a co-host on Zoom, I can share that.
Carl, do you know how to do that? Co-host on Zoom. Sounds like a great idea. Does anybody know how to do a co-host on Zoom?
Eric, if you, can you ask,
On the share.
you try asking to share?
On the share.
It's on the share button there.
Just, it should be a drop down on the share. And it should say to, they
Multiple participants.
allow everybody to.
That's it.
There you
You're hired.
All right, Eric, it's me share now.
Did that work, Eric?
I think we're getting there. How's that look for everyone?
Good.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. And again, thank you, Ross, for the introduction. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have in front of me just a short presentation for you tonight that will cover what a housing needs report is, why and how the province is requiring it to be updated at this time, and what the next steps for the village will be moving through 2025. So just in general, an H&R housing needs report identifies existing and projected gaps in housing in any given municipality based on a number of indicators such as affordability, and projected population growth. I'll speak more on that calculation method in a moment, but I would like to point out now that the calculations that are included in this report that Council has seen were prepared by Metro Vancouver using a standardized method that all BC municipalities are adhering to. Lions Bay previously produced a report in 2021. There are some inconsistencies between that report and what you see today. I can speak more to that in the questions period. Overall, the 2021 report is longer, more detailed, more nuanced. In 2028, the village, amongst other municipalities, will be required to produce a regular housing needs report, not an interim housing needs report, which will likely look more like the 21 report, both in length and detail. This time frame here is intended to line up with census updates. So the housing needs report, the zoning bylaw, and OCP updates will be occurring every 5 years moving forward. We were not able to present to council prior to the January 1st, 2025 deadline, but I don't believe there'll be any issue arising from that. I'll speak now quickly about the standardized method. As I mentioned, this was it's composed of 6 components that are included in full detail in the appendix of this report. These components were crafted, I believe, with the assistance from UBC. All municipalities will likely be seeing higher numbers in their housing needs reports now compared to what was previously prepared. So this contrast between this interim report and the 2021 report that you've seen before is not exclusive to Lions Bay. As I said, the key findings are included in the appendix of the report. And the time frame here, I spoke with Ross a little bit about this, but if you consider this report to be an update to the 2021 report, you can see that these 5-year and 20-year projections start in 2021, move up to 2026, and the 20-year projection starts in 2021 up to 2041. Essentially, what these numbers mean is that between the period of 2021 to 2026, in order to meet the housing needs that were calculated by this method, Lions Bay would need an additional 137 households. And in that 20-year period, it's 454. The 2021 report, just for comparison, found in that same time period, 35 new additional homes would be needed in that 5-year period. And there was not a 20-year time frame in the 2021 report. So overall, the purpose of this housing needs report is to inform the municipality zoning bylaw and OCP. The same provincial legislature that required this update to occur now also requires that the zoning bylaw and OCP be updated by the end of this year, 2025. These numbers should be considered to be what these two documents, the capacity should be supported by the OCP and the zoning bylaw. There's no penalty or requirement for any municipality to meet these numbers. These homes don't need to be built. However, the ability for the community to support that through legislature is what's required, and that's really what these our numbers are showing. If there are any questions, I hope there are, I'll do my best to see to them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation, Eric. Any questions, council?
Yeah, I'll go
Okay,
first.
Councillor Abbott.
So Eric, in the previous 2021 report, as you mentioned, it was calculated that we needed to create 35 new homes in that 5-year period, and now it's 137. I was on that council. That council discussed at length how unfeasible it was to create that many homes. And the report, conclusion of the report, which I think you wrote, described that idea as notional. And now to accept the report that changes 35 as notional to 137 homes to be created in the next 2 years. I don't know what attitude of use now, farcical. I don't know what else to call it. But it's just physically impossible to create these numbers in Lions Bay. There's no ways we can write a zoning bylaw or an OCP that allows for this amount of densification, regardless of all the other risks associated with where we are, what we've gone through recently, and all the other items. In fact, we don't have the water, we don't have sewage, all of these other problematic issues that we discussed before. All that being said, I understand this report says we don't have to meet those numbers, but we do have to write a zoning and OCP bylaw that explains how it is possible, which is an impossible thing to write. So I don't see how this council can even receive this report without going back and once again pointing out to the province that this is simply unachievable and we can't accept it. I also completely puzzled how Metro would come up with a formula where one size fits all, including this additional 45% that gets added to all the calculation at the end, just because we're a community of larger homes, which makes it even more impossible. But Metro can support this calculation, but at the same time, they've issued Metro 2050, which says all densification needs to happen in transit corridors, and then there's Bill 45, 47, whatever those numbers were, that talks about creating density in the right areas where they have transit zones and where they have the infrastructure. And then this is completely the opposite. Do you have any comment on that complete kind of dichotomy between what Metro says in the 2050 and what we've been asked to do here?
Yes, through your worship, I believe I can respond to that. Again, I would like to reiterate that I did not personally have anything to do with this calculation method, any of the components that were theorized to be useful indicators for judging growth expectations. What I can say perhaps how this compares to Metro 2050 is that a small amount of densification perhaps is possible in a village like Lions Bay. That's not my, I don't want to express my personal opinion. From my understanding, the village currently allows secondary suites. If that is true, then potentially the zoning bylaw can already support these numbers.
Okay, thanks for that, Mr.
Sorry, I don't understand. How can the zoning bylaw support us building 454 additional homes
Show me to answer that.
in 20 years? That doesn't make any sense.
Okay,
I have no comment.
Mr. Blackwell, just before we go to Councillor Connell.
Sure,
Mr.
it's a
Blackwell,
simple
step in,
calculus
please.
associated with the number of single-family homes and the number of secondary suites that they can accommodate. So again, as Eric has indicated, this is not a legal requirement that municipalities make this happen. These are notional numbers, and Lions Bay can double its density simply by allowing secondary suites of all of the single-family homes. That's the concept. And so to do that doesn't require any amendment to the zoning bylaw, because the zoning bylaw already contemplates that.
Okay, Councillor Connell.
So in regards to the OCP, we are an engaged community. We would have to have extensive public consultation. The cost, on last council that we looked into was going to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, of which we do not have a budget for. We would need to plan well in advance. So committing to that by December 31st, 2025 it's a non-starter. It's simply not going to happen. We have other priorities that take precedent. I also have to say that the last time we had a housing needs presentation brought to us, we asked the question, have you ever even been out here? And the answer was no. And the same metrics that are being applied to us that apply to the city of Burnaby or New Westminster are completely incongruent with where we live and what we have. We are more in alignment with electoral districts, which are exempt. And I think as a village, we need to be going to the province and looking for an exemption from this notion at all, because it is not useful. We don't have sewer, we don't have water, and we're not getting them anytime soon. We do not have the $40 million to hook up to Metro Water as a village, and we are not going to be supported by Metro to do so. When it comes to the septic systems, how are we going to densify on land that is very, very difficult and expensive to put septic in, to have the families come in to build a home and have to adhere to the Cordilleran report? To the cost alone is prohibitive to build here. This just does not make sense for Lions Bay. And I have a hard time accepting anything that's going to put any sort of constraint on us that are completely unrealistic for the geography of where we live.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell.
Thanks. So just to reiterate, these are notional numbers. It's a requirement of the province. If council wants to take the province on, you won't be successful, but we can do it anyway. But in order to do so, we're gonna have to put down a whole bunch of other projects to set aside the time to chase something that we're not legally required to do. So these reports are setting benchmarks. Again, as Eric indicated, the province is not expecting us from a regulatory perspective to follow through on this. And the last piece of this, given our existing zoning and our OCP, there's no, both documents accommodate this more than this number. So we don't actually have to do any updating. If it was a generic single family residential zone that only allowed single family, that his comments would be bang on, there would be the need to change the OCP and then the zoning bylaw to accommodate that number of housing units. But we're golden, we're good, we're already there.
Councilor
That's the good
Brown?
news.
My understanding was that we were to receive this report prior to December 31st of last year, and we're receiving it now. My understanding is that council is receiving that this evening, and receiving a report and accepting a report is not necessarily the same thing. Clearly, this is built on with models, and it's setting out some goals and some indicators for us to strive towards. There clearly is a housing need. There certainly is an identified desire within our community to increase the number of households, whether they be suites, whether they be laneway houses. There's interest in people aging in place. There's so much work to do, and I don't think we need to argue about whether it's a 47 or a 36 or whatever. I think we're accepting, receiving that there is a desire to expand our homes and different options for people within the community. So I did say we need to receive the report and move along here.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell, this keeps us in compliance. Receiving this doesn't preclude us from having some town hall meetings or discussions with the community to get feedback, consultation on what the community would like to see in the future. This doesn't hold us, is what you're saying, to any specific numbers?
Correct. As Eric has indicated, this is a requirement of the province. The province is not expecting the municipalities to follow through in achieving these numbers. This is sort of a little bit separate from the several bills that were passed by the legislature. It's related, but not directly. Council can continue having those conversations. Council, if so minded, can choose to pursue sort of an exemption, even though it doesn't have any effect for us. Council still has the ability to take that on if it so chooses, etc.
So we've received it for information now.
So
There's nothing else that needs to be done.
When you adopted the agenda, you never received it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So everyone has voiced their thoughts. Councillor Abbott, you have something else to add?
Yeah, I have something else to add. I mean, I've read this report, obviously we all have in detail, and this is the first time I've heard the suggestion that just by allowing secondary suites we comply. It talks about new households, changing zoning bylaws, building new households. That's what it talks about here. That's the first time I've heard that suggested, which is interesting. I personally, I'm not suggesting, Ross, we spend certainly any legal money or anything else, but I do think we should push back to the province and tell them that, yeah, we got your report, and we should be making the statement that we cannot achieve these numbers in any other way than if everyone in the village decided to have secondary suites.
That's fine.
And it requires that, by the way, it requires that every single house bar 50 would have to put in a secondary suite. That's never going to happen. So, but I think if we, at the very least, need to make that statement so that it doesn't seem we're committing to changing a zoning bylaw and our OCP to create more homes, which we can do.
So just to reiterate, the province is not expecting Lions Bay to actually facilitate the construction of 100 and whatever the number is.
454.
Yeah, they're not requiring it. They're saying, hey, pay attention to this number. That's all this is. And the good news is, I keep saying, we're already there. Our zoning already allows for effectively doubling the density.
I would like to see words to that effect in this report.
I'll talk to Erica offline, but what council needs to do is just leave it as it is right now to comply with the legislation. Council missed the window, which was the end of, it was in December. So here's your chance to get it in even after the fact. So I wouldn't mess with it at this point. My recommendation is just comply with the province's legislation. And then if council is so minded, we can revisit the issue after that.
Okay. All right.
Briefly.
Yeah.
Just
Councilor Brown, the last comment. We'll move on.
The province clearly is using modeling and wishing us to engage in a conversation. And look at our OCP, look at whether we're blocking, whether the regulations that are in place are preventing the creation of households, and I do emphasize the word households, or whether we're facilitating it.
Okay.
And I hear that we have the capacity to do that. And so I think.
It's evident that further discussion needs to be had in the spirit of moving on through this agenda. You've spoken twice. I understand that we need additional discussion on this and throughout the community. So is there something you can summarize very
Just
quickly? So we can move
one
on?
quick further question for Eric.
And if you've got questions, you can always reach out directly offline
Sure.
as well.
I think
So
this is a fairly
let's
quick
move
one that you
forward.
can probably clear up. The wording in this report we're looking at tonight is slightly different to the one we got in December. So I'm trying to get an energy. Slightly different to the one we got in December. And the one in December had in more than one place mentioned that this didn't apply to electoral areas. And I looked at that and thought, yeah, it makes sense. So, you know, all the areas around us, which are electoral areas, it doesn't apply to them. I somehow see that Lions Bay is more aligned with every other electoral area from Horseshoe Bay to Squamish than it is with other parts of Metro. So question, Eric, that statement, for some reason you took it out of the latest version. Can you just give us some background on that?
Yes, of course, through your worship. I believe you're speaking on the descriptor of component F, the demand buffer. The only reason I took out that sentence there, referencing how this doesn't apply to electoral areas, is that I was repeating myself, just trying to make the report a bit more succinct. That's all.
All right, thank you very much, Eric. Okay, we'll move on to 8.1.3. That's Lions Bay Beach Park revitalization.
Thank you
very much.
Very much.
Thanks
Very
very
much.
much.
Thanks.
You want to do 60 seconds or we can sit back there?
Do you need 60 seconds?
No, that's up to you.
No.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move right to staff, staff report.
Thank you. Nick, if you want to jump up to the table here, I'll give you this. So for those that have not met the architect on the Beach Park project, this is Nick Gray of Nick Gray Architecture. Council has a report in front of you that sets out sort of the full scope. Just to summarize, there's a number of constraints. Thank you. There's a number of constraints associated with this project, as we all know. Size of the beach park to begin with, the size of the budget relative to construction costs. There are RFP considerations. There are quite a number of considerations. So all of that sort of formed the scope of the RFP that went out. The work that had been done by the community, all of the consultation that had been done up to this point was factored into that discussion. There were several meetings on site during the selection process. So it was quite an aggressive process to move this thing forward because it had been languishing. We are hard against end of the year deadline. I've heard some concerns about how this is rushed. Certainly one can argue that. I would say it doesn't have to be. It's entirely up to council. As I say in the report, the council can choose to make a decision tonight or not, or make a different decision. All the options are on the table for council. If council wants the project completed before the summer, then council's gonna have to make a decision. If council wants to push right up against the funding window, that's fine too. That's totally council's prerogative. The challenge here is, you know, I mean, this community has been involved in this discussion far longer than I've been aware of it. And as I understand it, there's been a significant amount of engagement and discussion, involvement with the design of the playground areas. There was a tremendous amount of work, as I understand, that went into that. I wasn't here, to witness that. This is what I understand. And so taking this information, you will recall that this matter came before council seeking direction. Council decided to go to the RFP. We went to the RFP process. We set out criteria, and based on the criteria set out, we had a number of responses. Nick Bray Architecture and Euro House were a combination of two different proponents. To ensure that we achieved one of the objectives, which was to have some iconic West Coast architecture to help define this park, make it stand out. That was one of the provisions that where I was advised of. So we took the architecture of Nick Bray Architects, which I find to be quite outstanding, but my views don't really matter, and Euro House, which in terms of their construction experience seemed to be a great fit as well. So it took a little longer than expected to get excuse me, negotiated pieces in place. We've done that, but we have a hard deadline. So that's why you see the aggressive deadline, is to provide council the option of either getting something done before summer, or if council chooses, something after summer. What else can I say? With regard to concerns I've heard raised about where it's constructed, there's a different conversation that needs to happen with council that I would advise needs to be happening, that needs to occur in closed, because there are legal considerations associated with it. So with that, I would like to welcome Nick and turn it over to you.
Nick Welton, and we look forward to your presentation and maybe a little background on the open house as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Shall we just second for the presentation? Mr. Mayor?
Let's
Yeah,
clarify the contract for, pardon me, the funding indicates the commencement date in 2021. It's not, did not occur, but the completion date by March 31st, 2026. So we do have a just, and we're in year end, but March of 2026 is the actual contract.
So that's March 26 is when the funding would run out.
I can't confirm.
Yeah, I can confirm. I read the grant. It's March 31st, 2026.
Okay.
So it's the completion date for the project.
Yeah, substantial completion.
All right, Nick, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much to Mayor and Council for inviting me here tonight to present this proposal on the traditional lands of the Coast Salish and Squamish Fisheries. Yeah, as mentioned, I'm Nick from Nick Bray Architecture, and we, alongside Euro House and Niskanen Engineering, were selected from the applicants that responded to the village's request for proposal process last summer. The village's RFP documents included a detailed brief describing all the scope and requirements for the work of the project, including specifics about the accommodation that are required. So our first task was to start reading and studying a large amount of information relating to the history of this project that spanned almost a decade. This included studying two previous designs, the original one by P&G Landscape Architects and Architecture, and the more recent one by Millennia Architecture, and all the relating feedback and comments relating to those. We reviewed the results of the 2017 survey that was organised by the Lions Bay Beach Park Advisory Committee, as well as the more recent playground design workshop that took place organised by Habitat. We read through all the comments and feedback and all the meeting minutes and news articles relating to the long history of this project.
Don't mind me.
It's the next slide.
Yeah, you're gonna have to drive, Josh. Sorry, you can't drive.
Does it help if I move the keyboard there?
So I could change the page, so I need to do it.
I gotta let somebody in here quickly.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Next page?
Yeah, this is
Whoa.
work.
Sorry,
Let's leave on the first page. Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
first page, this one?
We then met on at the park on several occasions with various groups of people from the village to discuss the site challenges and concerns and discuss the project as a whole. And those meetings on site were followed up with further Zoom meetings, and More recently, we've been closely working with Euro House and our structural engineer. We aim to satisfy all the requirements in the brief and design a building that will provide the community with a beautiful and iconic building that will serve many generations to come. We also aim to find a middle ground that would bridge the gap between some of the competing ideas and interests within the village. We really appreciate everyone that took the time to attend on Wednesday night's open house. And on the whole, it was really positive, with residents raising really valid concerns, the most common of which were related to the building location and relating to the kayak storage, which we definitely need to address those two tonight. Many people commented that after so much time, effort and money over the last decade, they just really want to see something built. So hopefully we can make that happen. We heard some fantastic new ideas, including having a stage area that a few people commented on for events and performances. Also a great idea about providing defensible planting in front of the washroom doors, which we'll talk further about. It was great to meet so many people from the village, including two people actually from the Arts Council Society, who can hopefully be very involved in the project moving forward. Okay, let's move to the next page, please. Thank you. Sorry. Since the meeting on Wednesday, we've also we've also received a number of detailed emails we've heard from one of those people tonight. Thank you very much for all the people that have taken the time to engage, because all of this feedback, regardless of whether it's criticism, comments, concerns, all of it is really, really valuable to this process and will make the project better. So yeah, I'm sorry I can't actually point to these locations, but hopefully Ross can help me out here. I can give it a go if that's okay. I can click on omitting people if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's really hard to see it from here. Is there any way we can zoom in or make this bigger?
No, this won't work.
No, that's not operation. That's what this is in theory here. Sorry about that.
Would it help if we turn the light out?
That might happen, yes.
Go ahead and move a little closer if you'd like.
So I'll start by talking about the playground areas, which will hopefully be named after Erin Moore. We've been working, discussing, meeting with the playground designer Habitat to accommodate their design. The playground workshop stated, so the results of that playground workshop stated that 83% of those people interviewed approved with the TOTS playground being moved to below the upper playground. So it's nice to look slow here, but the TOTS playground is currently in that location there. And we're proposing in line with that survey and workshop, if I can get there, just about there, just to relocate that playground just about there, which also has the advantage of freeing up more green grass area adjacent to the existing field. The existing, Habitat have already designed those two playgrounds in terms of equipment. Our understanding is that that's been approved. What we do recommend, however, is that a memorial plaque for Erin Moore be installed adjacent to the upper playgrounds, close to the park entrance, which is up in that location, if I can get there.
Can you, sorry to interrupt, you did hit that 1%.
Yeah, sure.
What's the matter?
Big component of this scheme, the requirements were to replace all the stairs that lead from the upper area down to the beach, and of course that will be done in accordance to the building codes and providing all the necessary handrails and full protection and safety. The Laura Beck Memorial Pavilion, down the bottom left there. I'm just gonna, it's too hard to move, Professor. The the idea is to return that to its former beauty. So, and we can do that with minimal cost by trimming back the some of those timber elements that are rotted, and by revarnishing all of the timber structure. Now the roof, as I said, we've been to the park many times with our construction team, and the roof itself actually seems in okay condition. So the focus will be on the timber structure and renewing that. And again, we recommend that a memorial plaque for Laura Beck be installed on the pavilion or adjacent to it. Although it's had that name for some time, there doesn't appear to be any mention of it in the park, or at least I couldn't see any. Another safety concern that was raised in the RFP was the fall hazard from the long beach retaining wall. I think everyone knows what it is. We wanted to avoid installing a guardrail on top of this retaining wall for obvious reasons, so mainly aesthetic. Also safety reasons. If people are going to trip up and roll down that hill, they don't want to roll into a safety guardrail. So our idea to address that safety concern was to work with engineers to install additional logs on the beach. You can see them there in front of the retaining wall. That will be properly fastened, engineered, and secured. And those logs will enable us to retain additional sands behind them, effectively raising the sand adjacent to the retaining wall, and therefore reducing that fall risk. So the idea would we would reduce the fall risk to and effectively reduce the height of the retaining wall to less than 2 feet at any point. And that has the additional advantage of providing additional seating, because now that retaining wall is at a level that you can sit at or sit on, and obviously additional seating on those secure logs that provide the retaining for that additional sand. The main lawn on the hillside there will be regraded and reseeded as part of this proposal. So moving on to a topic that a lot of people had comments on, and I thank everyone that had gave feedback. What we all agreed on in those site meetings was the ramp adjacent to the kayak storage, the concrete ramp, posed a safety hazard, and we've heard that a number of people have already fallen on that ramp, which isn't surprising. It's very steep and very slippery. Fortunately, none of those injuries were serious, but we feel strongly that it's something that should be addressed. And as registered professionals, if we were to replace that kayak storage in its existing location, it would be irresponsible for us to do so without addressing those safety issues as well. Now, to address those safety issues, we also concluded that we'd require 2 retaining walls to be built to just in that plateau there, to provide some plateau flat areas to safely remove larger kayaks from those storage areas, and enable people then to walk safely down the new steps to the new jetty and launch from there. Now, of course, this would cost a lot of money, and going through, we met with both our construction team and also the park's landscaping contractor, and it was suggested that would work. Just alone, the new steps and the retaining walls and the new platform areas, excluding the racking, would cost minimum 150,000 and potentially upwards of $200,000. Now that, of course, when we're already working with a very tight budget, is also going to take money away from the building and unfortunately prevent the building from being built with the requirements that we've been talking about. So our response to that, which obviously isn't ideal as we've received all the feedback that we have, was to find a less expensive option, which will be to house those kayaks up by the building. We've since heard, and again, thank you for the comments, that simply doesn't work for many people, largely not necessarily due to the racking itself, but due to the conflict on the beach and on the lawn between kayakers or watercraft users and swimmers and beach users. So we absolutely understand that concern. One thing that a number of people said was actually we should remove the kayaks altogether. Other people commented that maybe we could retain the secure kayak storage up at the top of the hill here for people that don't use their craft very often, or just want secure winter storage for them, and retain the bulk of the kayak storage where it is existing. One option could be to remove that scope, the kayak storage scope, from this project, and deal with it as a separate project in the same way as the jetty is being dealt with as a separate project. That was what we're concerned about, is that this whole issue of the kayak storage and the safety of that ramp creating a situation where this project would not be able to go ahead in whatever form, because really that does require a pocket of money that is not accounted or and would not allow the requirements of this RFP to be met. So moving on from that, I just want to talk next about the lawn area, and we've heard some comments about that already, and I absolutely understand those concerns about losing grass area. We'll talk more about the location of the building in a minute, and of course that's very important as well. I'm personally not going to talk about the lease land because that's being dealt with by Ross, and you know, we were given instructions to design a building, so we're working within the parameters that we've been given that we could potentially build on that lease land. But the park itself, I just want to flick a couple of pages if I can here in a second. But we really wanted to maintain the existing connection between that grass area at the top of the lawn area, the flatter lawn area, and the beach and the hillside. That was really something that we felt was important. Is you know, when you stand up or play or you know, for events that happen up on this top area, maintaining that view to the sea, to the beach, to the grass area, we felt really important. It would be really something that's quite important that would be lost if we put a building right in the middle of those two spaces, like dividing them and blocking that visual connection. Regarding the lawn area itself, so what we did is since the meeting on Wednesday, just to better communicate our thoughts here, and I might need a little help myself. I can't actually read the numbers on there, so I might ask Mayor to read some of those numbers in a second. But the diagram on the top left is the existing condition. You can't see it very well, but there is you can see in red the existing washroom building. You can see just about make out the boundary of the park that we're suggesting moves location. So that Tots Park currently takes up an area adjacent to the washroom, and then there's a boundary around the remaining grass area. Now there's areas. I'm really sorry I didn't write it down because I thought I'd be able to see this, but it is stated in the box down the bottom right there what that area is. Something along the lines of 4,600, I think, square feet.
4,500.
It's the one in red actually.
The one in red, 4760.
Thank you very much. Approximately 4,700 square feet. The diagram at the bottom is actually the original proposal from P&G Landscape Architecture for the original scheme. They had the buildings sort of largely in between the green area and the beach, and they had a court, a basketball court, I think, on the bottom right there. There's a boundary there, the existing grassy area left over within that blue boundary is, I believe, 3,500.
The blue one,
Yeah.
3130.
So 3130, thank you very much. I'm sorry to ask that question. Top right is the proposal that we're talking about today, where we're removing the Tots Park and allowing for additional green area at the top of the hill. And that figure came in around 4,500, I think. So just slightly less than the existing grass area, but what we've effectively done is rotated that grass field 90 degrees so that it now orientates itself more and associates itself more with the green hill and the beach below. I'm just going to flip back to this main site area diagram. one of the great ideas, or maybe a few people had, was a stage area. We've actually suggested where that might be, and people that we were speaking to about the stage area were loving the idea of it. So I can't get there. Loving the idea of it. Sorry.
Nick, did you want to move to my seat?
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. Thanks. Sorry, that was technical issues. Special, thank you. So the suggested idea would be that it would be located in this area.
Someone trying to get in.
Oh, sorry, thank you. The idea would be, it would be in this location here, so that it could be viewed from both the park and the lower park and the beach, the hillside and the beach, and also the upper park. And you know, I think we can imagine like if the events, the existing events, and maybe even additional events and performances that could take place in this upper park area. That could be viewed from both sides. So you know, there's many uses for that potential space. So we'll move on to the building location here. So we've obviously reviewed the previous design. Nothing against previous design; it's a great design. But I just did want to talk about the location and you know, the reviews that we had on site with various people. Now, again, the budget on this this project is very tight, and obviously getting tighter as time moves on with the inflation the way it is, and construction costs the way they are. Our concerns with that original location were, firstly, that's the location of the existing septic field. We thought that the cost associated with moving that septic field would.
Septic field's up there.
The tank is.
Oh, the tank, sorry, the tank, yeah, the tank relating to it, sorry. my apologies.
Yeah, it's a new tank because the one that's there is not adequate, and I think you're gonna find that is the case, whatever you're doing here.
The tank has to be replaced, it's not big enough.
Okay, our understanding that it was potentially, okay, keep that, that's,
No,
sorry,
we
my
even have
apologies
a
for.
report, Ross, that
Yeah.
it's not big enough, so.
Oh, okay, fair enough. fair
All
enough.
right, guys, sorry, we'll keep order to it, Nick,
Yeah, thank you. Our
thanks.
our other concern was the roots of this very large tree in this location. And then the fact it's on a hillside. We're working with the contractor closely to find a solution that would be reduce the construction costs whilst meeting all the requirements. And also, you know, sure, people from Lions Bay especially would know that building on a hillside is far more expensive than building on flat ground. So that was our intent, is to find a economically feasible solution that would sit on flatter land. And obviously we talked about the park orientation there. And there's been a number of other ideas regarding the location, including up in this area, including down the bottom here, and including down the property line here. Again, we're all ears. The more ideas, the better. But again, we as architects, have read all the information, understood, had the site meetings we had, just had the best attempt we could at this, and we understand it might not be for everyone. So moving into discussing the building itself now. As I said, the accommodation in this building was dictated by the RFP documents. We do understand there's a lot of ideas and thoughts about having a unisex washroom with cubicles for changing and shared unisex washrooms. I love that idea. That's typically the direction my firm would go in, but again, accommodation was quite detailed, and I think there's been a previous discussion about that. Indeed, the previous design had a similar setup to this. The item, the one part of this of this accommodation that was not in the RFP is the covered area, which we added onto this because we've designed a number of these type of community buildings, and covered area, especially in a park where the only existing covered area is the small lunch pavilion at the bottom. Having additional covered area we felt would be a really important or really valuable community resource. So just to put it in perspective for everyone, this covered area is 7 times the size of the existing pavilion. And there was a lot of comments in the previous consultation relating to that. Firstly, having a concession space, I know there's comments on that. Again, it was in the RFP as an optional item. People had comments that it wasn't necessary. Some people thought it was a great idea. The intent of this would it be that it was just to be used during large events. So, and it would be a facility to use in the many larger events that happen in the park. But it does, of course, address this covered area. And in the past projects we've done, community projects, those covered areas have been used for yoga classes, to school activities, for all sorts of things that would be really valuable. And we noted in the original 2017 consultation that one of the largest comments being made, or one of the largest percentages on that wish list, was that I think 78% of people commented that additional picnic area would be really valuable, and we felt that having maybe covered area for picnics as well, maybe you could install tables, chairs in there, as we've shown in the renderings, would be really valuable. Here's the last page, we're getting there. So one of the key aspects of our proposal, and one of our aspirations, was all about longevity. It's all about making this building last for generations, not just for people in this room, but for their children and their children's children. I'm going to be around in 50 years' time, but we hope this building will still be used and still be valuable. So what was really critical for us was to use robust, fire-resistant and low-maintenance materials. So all the walls you see on this diagram are made from concrete block. Painters put concrete block on the interior, which has the added bonus actually of providing a canvas for local artwork. Concrete block obviously is incredibly low maintenance and very, very robust. On the exterior side of that concrete block, on the north side of this design, just purely on the north side, we proposed a vertical wood cladding. I'll show you some pictures of what we propose. It'd be an engineered wood, so again, it would be very robust. That would be mounted on that concrete block. But again, all the walls are concrete block. And the roof, you can see the pitch roof here, would be the soffit material we're proposing for that. Is largely a metal roof, metal frame roof as well, above the covered area, the outside area. The soffit of that roof would be a product that we used many times before. It's called Lux. It's a metal wood effect cladding material that is very, very realistic. It very much looks like wood. That's an image of that product. The top of the roof would be proposed would be either a standing seam or a metal corrugated roof. So a metal roof, top and bottom. Again, very low maintenance, fire resistant materials on top and bottom of that covered area and across the entire roof. Some of the other materials shown in here, we talked about painted concrete block. We talked about the potential for a canvas for local arts, and one of the ideas on Wednesday night was that maybe that film with local children's artwork on it could be printed and covered, used to cover the washroom partitions, as well as the potential for the blockwood wall to be used as for local art. And we then also have a larger local art installation on the outside of the building as well. This is pictures of the wood cladding that we were proposing. Again, that's up for grabs. We can discuss that. We like the darker look because the darker wood, because it contrasts with this warmer soffit. And we would uplight that soffit in the nighttime, so it would create a really warm atmosphere around the building, and also create some sort of a safer environment as well for it all to be lit up in the nighttime. So looking at the outside of the building, here's our our wood cladding that we talked about, the darker wood cladding right the way through here. And of course, the metal soffit, but wood effect, very realistic wood effect cladding in that location that would be uplit at the night time. One of the comments that we received were about the location of the washroom doors, fair comments, and I appreciate receiving them. Now, most architects, as well, we designed to an international standard called CEPTED. Now, that's the crime prevention through environmental design. Now, that standard is all about reducing crime and improving safety, partly through natural surveillance. And you'll notice that a lot, not all, but most new washroom facilities in public parks being built today will have their doors pointing directly, their exterior doors, I should say, pointing directly towards the public area. So the most public area, and this is also pointing directly towards the children's playgrounds and where events will be held. And more importantly, perhaps pointing directly towards the park entrance, which will get the most traffic, with the intent being that it will improve safety by having natural surveillance of those doors. Now, inside of those doors is another area where there's effectively a vanity area with a low privacy door that then takes you into the main washroom and changing area. So there is still privacy, but that again, following the CEPTED's safety requirements, those washroom doors face the highest traffic areas. Now, on the last slide, again, we heard very valid comments about the importance of this being connected to the Lions Bay community. Now, this design is supposed to be a modern version of a West Coast aesthetic, and we've heard comments back that people have houses that follow this same kind of minimal West Coast aesthetic in Lions Bay. Having lots of wood, again, like we have the woods all the way along here, and the wood effect on the soffit here, as well as the primary materials. But what we also have is a kind of key mural that will be over the top of the concession hatch that we really want to be designed and led by the local arts council, designed by an artist that again would root this project in its local community. So again, I just want to thank everyone that's commented. I know there's a lot of history to this project. There's a lot of spirit, a lot of passion relating to it. I do take all the comments very seriously. There are a lot of comments that do conflict with each other, so unfortunately we can't, and there's also a limited budget as well. Unfortunately, we can't make all those comments happen. Especially relating to the conflicting ideas on where this building should be located. But we've done our best here, and I really appreciate you listening. Thank you.
All right, Nick, thank you very much for that presentation and all the description. There's no further feedback that you want to provide or anything. You mentioned a lot of that has been taken in, okay? All right, at this point, I think we'll move to our counselors and get feedback. Just in reviewing the staff's options, the options are three options. They're directing council to make decisions as early as possible. The three options were: approve the proposed concept in principle to facilitate immediate construction. Second was approve the proposed concept in principle subject to specific minor changes to facilitate immediate construction. Third was do not approve the design as presented and provide specific design direction. And then in brackets, this will have budgetary and construction timeline implications. So with that, before we move to any decision making, I'll offer up, I think I'll go directly to the former Beach Park Committee, and that was Councillor Broughton and Councillor Cunliffe for comments, and then we'll go around the table. So Councillor Cunliffe, if you'd like to comment first.
I think it's beautiful. My concern realistically is the timeline, because risking having our beach park closed, like for construction? Because from my understanding, we would have to close the entire park while there was active construction going on. Or could it be done in chunks, like the playground could be open for use while the washrooms are still being constructed, or vice versa, or would everything be going on all at once? And if that was to go over the time frame, and the residents could not access the beach, I mean, you can come in by water, but we can't have, many visitors come out here. We would be hiring 247 security to keep people from walking through a construction zone and getting down to the water. That's just the reality of what's gonna happen. So realistically, how feasible is it that this would be ready to go? I mean, May 31st is aggressive, but let's say by the time school's out, end of June.
So we also been in discussion with your house, and they, firstly, to just address a comment about closing the park or not, and we'll see if any of these individual events or interventions were taking place on their own, we could just cordon off certain areas, but the speed we would have to do this basically means it's go, everything would have to be done at the same time, so to meet that timeline, maybe there could be access retained down to the shore, but the rest of the park would have to be cordoned off, and I know there will be periods in time where the whole park would have to be closed to complete this project. Now, we spoke with the contractor, and he's confident that dependent on the resources we're given, and this includes, it's going to include the existing park landscape contractors, and of course how quickly we get the approval for this. He's confident that we can get this done, but it is literally it's all steam ahead. It wouldn't be like, we unfortunately wouldn't be able to have additional consultation periods and whatever else to get it done.
So we would be looking for 247 construction essentially.
Yeah.
Sundays.
I don't know about Sundays all the time.
Well, I'm speaking that's a good council sort of.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Cunliffe, anything else?
I think for now.
Okay, Councillor Brown?
Okay. The community was brought together last Wednesday to review a preliminary indicative design. And so my understanding would be that there would be some flexibility in the design based on that information. So I'm just, how far along are you on this? My understanding, I've been attempting to input into this process all the way through the fall. And my understanding was that negotiations were underway and so on, and then in fact your contract was not sorted out until mid-December. Is that correct? Or
yeah, I'll have to go back and look at the actual dates, but it was
quite late by the time.
Yeah, I got to late November maybe. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I was informed after late in December that was the case. No, that's fine. Okay. So that being the case, I mean, I'm concerned that we're looking at 6 days from last Wednesday to tonight to try to make a decision on this. I have a number of concerns. The original RFP, I understood the storage room and the concession was presented as an option to look at as an option.
Yep.
And whether it's something we wanted to consider or not. So that was optional. You looked at the P&G design. I'm not seeing a lot of the millennia design reflected here. Like, for example, you talked about not having an outdoor area, yet the millennia design, a key component of that was a covered outdoor area, and really celebrating that location that you were talking about for the stage. So a little bit concerned about that. The site meetings, I'm not sure who was involved in those. When we're talking about the wall at the beach, I love the idea of building up the sands and so on. And I had asked you the other day at the meeting, I believe, whether or not there had been any consultation time with the beach engineer, because there has been an extensive beach engineering done
Yeah.
for the jetty and so on. So I'm hoping that consultation will occur so we know how feasible that is. I love the idea. But again, do we actually know? The engineering has not yet been done, so it's kind of part of the preliminary indicative design as to whether or not we can do the beach that way. Right, is my understanding. The concept of removing the kayak watercraft, I mean, there's not only kayaks, there's also a tremendous number of SUPs at this point in time and so on. So removing that from this scope seems like a good idea if you're very uncomfortable professionally moving forward with it. So I think that we really need to hear that because I heard a very strong concern from the community regarding putting the kayaks up above. Not something I hadn't even considered was that they'd be put in the sunshine and that there would be deterioration as a result of that. There's a whole number of issues. So my take is that the kayaks at the top and then taking them down through the park across. What I was very concerned about in seeing the original design was that that I didn't have a sense that staff that you were involved in or you had seen the park when it's really busy. Like the beach is full, the bank is full, and the orientation of the beach is towards the ocean. And so facing the washrooms towards the entry is not appropriate. It also was a concern that I believe was raised in the last go round around the residents when they're at the beach want to be able to, first of all, see their smaller children on those playscapes. That's been addressed. But while that's occurring, their 8-year-old is going up to the washroom. Well, are they going up out of sight? And you know, in full support of, is it called SEPDED, which is the crime prevention through environmental design. Totally support that concept, and in which case the structure should be facing where the people are, and the people are not on the field other than in great numbers anyway, other than at that specific events where the entire field is used. So I have a real concern about working with that. The concept of building on flat land seems like a less expensive option. However, behind where the fence is, which is behind where the structure is planned to be built, is a drop off. And so my understanding would be that there would be a fair amount of engineering going on into how that occurs. So there's a bit of a concern I have with that. Yeah, definitely. There was the village very interested in having a covered area, and my hope would be that if we shifted the orientation and that in fact not only could we have that stage area, but some portion that may be covered as well. So I don't know, but anyway, there's a number of concerns. The primary one is that I would have liked to have inputted much earlier, and I actually asked, have had a motion of council to involve the previous beach park committee, and ultimately they, because of how the process and kind of took place, and meetings have not occurred with you. And as I said to you, I met with you the Monday before the Wednesday meeting. And at that time, that I really thought that it would be really helpful for me to have an understanding of where you were coming from and what the plan was. But in addition, that I had some ideas that I thought should be shared with you, for example, knowledge of the Aaronmore playground and understanding where Lori Bat came from. So, because clear understanding how this building and how this park fits into the community. So anyway, I'm very concerned about I'd like to move ahead as quickly as possible. And I'd like to create a process to have that occur as quickly as possible with input and with the changes that clearly are required. One of which is to retain and maintain the flatland playground.
Councilor Broughton, I'm gonna go around the table once, and maybe come around the second time, okay? Just,
Okay, I appreciate
so-
allowing me this.
Thank you very much. Councilor Abbott?
Sure, okay, yeah, Nick, I had also had a couple of questions on the timeline. But I understand from the discussion I've just heard, you haven't done any design work other than these conceptual renderings in this layout, correct?
We've been working closely with contractor and structural engineer, so we don't know how to build this. So it's not, it would just be a case of drafting. I have a team both in Vancouver and North Shore and in Pretoria as well. I'm very committed to this project. Yeah, if you agree to try and hit that timeline, as far as I'm concerned, I want this to happen. I really want this to happen for you. We'll throw whatever resources are necessary in my office to make this happen from a design point of view.
So you have started to do some design?
Yeah, well, these are drawn, yeah.
Well, other than the layout and the renderings we see, which is,
We have a package, yeah.
so how soon would you have IFC drawings then? Nothing changed?
So the plan with the schedule we set out was that now initial work would have to start taking place on site regarding all the other aspects of this design. So the new staircase,
Assume the critical path is to the washroom.
Yeah. So
my question is, have you done design work? If things did change, is there going to be an extra? Is that going to delay the process? And how soon would you have IFC drawings for the washroom, A for permit, and B to start work?
Yeah, so if there was no major changes, and obviously we can't just orientate the building, we'd have to rethink it. We designed a building very specific for its site orientation, ground, everything else, right? We can't just literally just turn the thing around, we'd have to rethink it. So that obviously would not fit within this schedule. But things like, maybe if you want to take out the concession, or you want to, obviously, people have been very clear about removing the kayaks or other aspects of this design, we could definitely change that, but we have to rethink the whole thing, and obviously we can't hit the schedule. But the schedule that we've committed to would be to have construction drawings by the end of January for the building. In the meantime, work can be taking place, work can be taking place on the rest of the interventions in the park. But our understanding is that the permit process will be relatively quick, so it wouldn't hold us back.
Okay, sorry, Councilor, do you have another question?
Yeah, I did. Couple. So Nick, I'm typically the budget guy here, more often than not.
Yeah.
I don't know with Ross, is this public knowledge now that was handed to us? Okay, so we just been given a project update, budget update, which basically shows it shows an additional TransLink grant, and I guess council can talk about that separately. Without that grant, you'd already be $100,000 over budget. With that grant, we're just under budget, and the reality of that grant's another separate discussion. But it basically says there is no more money here, right? Actually, potentially we haven't got enough, but if we get that grant, we have. And I've been, the one voice that was opposed to moving the jetty. I'm certainly opposed to moving the kayaks. For me, to get a project under budget doesn't mean you just remove scope. No, to get a project under budget is to simplify the scope, you meet the intent, but you don't just say, oh, well, just parts of the project I won't do. And I believe the kayak rack needed to be where it was, and just to move that out to another project that taxpayers are going to have to pay for, I'm not going to be in favor of that. But that's probably a council discussion. But a question for you was, in the numbers we have quoted here, for your fees and your house, which now adds up to 860 or 860,000 with your retainer. Those are your hard costs at the moment with zero contingency, correct?
So,
Or do you have a contingency built into that? Or is every change going to cost us $1?
so just to make it clear, my
Sorry,
current,
can we have the financial officers respond to that?
Sure.
All right, Joe.
So the 58,000 there, or last 12,000 retainers which we paid, is for two portions of the fixed quote. There are hourly charges on two separate parts if required at hourly target rates. There's for variable cost, we have no basis to estimate that for. So that would really be a question for NBA as to how those costs could arise. But what's quoted there is the fixed cost. There can be more variable.
Based on that layout, there are no contingencies built in. Okay, so yeah, so it's a really, the budgets, we've actually gone over budget, to be honest, technically, because you should have a contingency at this stage of a project. You cannot have one, so we're actually over budget. So there is no more money.
And may I just please clarify on the slide comment there for the amount for Euro House, we don't have a purchase, we have a purchase order out, but we will have a signed contract with them. So that is according to their RFP, there is not a signed contract with them yet.
Okay,
So,
that's why I asked if I could talk to this before I said anything more. Okay, I'll leave the budget where it is, just to say that. Okay, so the elephant in the room is where we're building it, and I guess council need to decide what to do with that. If we are moving it, you're gonna need more time. We're certainly gonna need to revisit the budget. I personally will always keep pushing for simplifying things. Lovely architecture. I'm more a form than a function guy. Sorry, I'm more function than a form guy. So I just want to, make sure it fits, it works. Your toes aren't going to curl when you walk in, and it's and that's what I'm more kind of focused on. So yeah, I just got my questions answered. Thanks.
Nick, can we show the plan view?
so
Someone needs to get in.
That's somebody in. So my feedback, I guess, and it's been repeated here, I think council voted on this last March to basically scrap the beach park committee's plan and allow staff to reach out and come up with a new plan. And I think there's a lot of aspects that we've done here which look fabulous. Really appreciate all your professionalism in that. My feedback, just from a longtime resident and with kids, is I agree with a lot of the residents that I think it should be reoriented here. First of all, leased land, I know Ross mentioned that we're gonna have to go into closed meeting to have a discussion on that, but my high level is I don't believe that we should be on leased land. But secondly, and we've heard this before, look, I played on this field a lot of years with kids throwing baseballs, kicking balls, and all sorts of things, and this is gonna be a backstop, in my opinion. And so orienting that the other way and keeping off the lease land, which we'll talk about in closed, is my first suggestion. Secondly, the kayaks, this to me is just the natural. I know there's some safety concerns, but I also see safety concerns here. People are gonna be taking kayaks amongst the swimming area, kids are gonna be swimming underneath, getting hit. This is prime real estate to me for the swimming and beach. The parents generally set up their chairs and their drinks, and the kids run and play. And the other concept of having the doors up here, the kids run to the washroom, and you want to see where they are. And ideally, you sit there with your friend group, the parents, drink in hand, and you don't want to get up and be chaperoning them. So, and if this playing field ends up being oriented sort of to the east-west, and I've done it before, the balls end up rolling down the hill right into the ocean. So this jetty, this is probably the feature of the jewel of the community is standing on that jetty, looking out to the water or looking back. And it also protects this beach, and that brings up the point that this is almost foundational to the beach. And it's gonna be, in my opinion, the waterfront, this can be classed pathways. We met with TransLink just a week ago, and the indication, and it's very loose and it's not confirmed, but there's, $430,000. Initially, they're looking at 180,000 towards bicycles, but pathways are priority to them. And in the scheme of their budget that they have on a yearly basis or shortfalls, pathways to them, they kind of gave us the nod, but we'd have to confirm that over the coming weeks as to, there's a large sum of money here. And the task force that was in charge of the connector task force with TransLink, number one project was the jetty and pathways. And this is classed as pathways, and balanced environmental Scott Christie has done this throughout Howe Sound and in Vancouver, and he's confident he can put together a report to justify pathways, for residents, for regional residents coming from the bus stop down to the beach. So that maybe frees up and helps out with the budget in some way. Yeah, so the key things in regards to your design is orientation of the building and the kayaks. Again, you got your jetty here. That's a natural pathway, and it doesn't interfere with any swimmers or kids, as I've seen kayaks come through the swimming area, and
They can't get through.
it doesn't mix, in my opinion. So that's just my comment. Do we have secondary?
Yeah,
We'll go
so
around the table again.
the orientation of the building actually does not, you mentioned putting in a natural barrier for balls and such. I don't see that as a major issue. I think balls end up in the ocean much more often than they end up in the side of the building. There's a screen already covering the washroom doors. So when you're on the beach, you can't see anybody going in and out of the doors as it stands. And from my perspective of a parent who's had 4 kids, that if you're really concerned about one of them, then you need to take responsibility to ensure that your child is making their way to the washroom safely and returning if that's so. I don't take issue with that part of it at all. The kayaks, absolutely. When somebody's dragging their kayak through a beach loaded with people, through kids that are swimming, everybody just shakes their head and says, what are you doing? So to set it up to facilitate that kind of behavior is counterintuitive. And I'm not opposed to putting the kayaks as a secondary if that is what is necessary, because what's paramount is washrooms and playgrounds from my perspective. So.
Councilor Brown.
The orientation of the building to me is completely non-optional. Taking away that field there are 2 flat areas in this community. The 2 flat grassed areas, the school and this play area here. And that is gold. That is so valuable, that area. And if those who have attended all of our miscellaneous, all the different events that happen at the beach, that whole top area for Fireman's Day, for Canada Day, is completely full of activities and people. And so that's just non-optional. And to put it on to lease land, regardless of what is going to come up and closed, I'm not really interested. Well, I'm interested, but I'm very concerned. In terms of the washroom, how deep are those washrooms? There's no scale on these diagram. I have to see how deep that is. And then there's and then there's a sidewalk in front of that. And then practically, where I'm gonna put my lawn chair or a blanket, if I happen to be up in that area, is not gonna be outside the bathroom door. So you're basically gonna create about a 15 to 20 foot dead zone in front of the washroom. And you're going to eliminate the playing field aspect. And so to reorientate the building is absolutely essential. If the concession and the storage, they were, you know, presented as optional. And I think that those, by that being removed, we then have a shape which is going to fit, you know, much more onto the original site. How does this size compare to what's there now?
Actually see it's, let's see very well, sorry, you can actually see a dash line of the original,
Oh, okay.
but maybe you can see it better on this. So here's the, as I said, like these are the comparable field areas.
Right.
And this is the building, and this is the building, the existing and the proposed.
Okay, so I think one of the presenting advantages of the previous plan was to use land that was not undesirable land, essentially, and get more land in play for beach park activities. And in the previous version, there was a covered area as well, which and also the stage type area. So I think if we could reorientate the building and look at opportunities to shift it back, we would. It's not on top of the drain septic field, but the septic tank would need to be moved back. And reportedly, the septic tank needed to be increased in size as well. Now, my understanding is that there has not been any consultation regarding septic or consultation regarding the beach engineering, and I'm not sure what consultations happened in terms of using lease land. I'm not sure. It seems like there's a lot of variables here that need to be taken care of. So there's still a lot of moving parts, and to reorientate, shift the building. Clearly, the kayak storage is a non-starter. I think I'm clear on that one.
All right.
I have been clear on that one. Okay,
Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, rather than restate a lot of stuff that's been said, I'm not gonna do that. There's been plenty of input from people. Yeah, I'm concerned the more we hear things like the fact that we haven't, in this budget, we don't have allowance for the septic, which we've known for a long time, and there's been much discussion on it. Needs to be increased in size. So there's another cost that we haven't got accommodated, and I'm sure there's going to be many more things. I think the orientation of the building, I do understand if the geometry stayed exactly the same and you just span it on an axis, it's going to block that view you get from the playing fields now through the grassy area down to the waterfront. I think you're right about that, Dick. I think that is a feature that you won't appreciate until there's a wall in front of you, because it is very, very appealing that you can stand in a grassy area, see down through the terraced area and out to the waterfront. The previous design had it shifted and dog-legged, and that was too expensive. So let's not keep repeating mistakes. So I'll leave it at that. I think there is decisions to be made, but the fundamental one is or building on leased land or not. And until we do that, we can't do much more. Obviously, leaning towards option 3, the staff have given us, which is give it some more thought, do some more work, but I think we can do that really quickly. I think if we can settle on whether it's on leased land, I think council knows enough about this project. And I was in the previous council over the years to help make those decisions. I don't think we need to go and establish another committee or do anything more. we've got plenty input, it's time to get on with it. But key is first deciding where we're building it.
All right, I'll just finish it off and I think I tend to agree with Councillor Abbott. Item number 3, I'll look at some of the other aspects. We need to go into close to discuss that leased land versus on village property. And to me, if we take that time, I imagine we're going to be missing this summer season, but we could hit it in the fall, in September, October. And then we also have some TransLink funds to figure out whether that's going to be just, it's going to be applied to the pathways and so on. So we can call a motion to approve number 3, or just go, we're gonna have to go into close.
You don't need a motion at this point.
Okay, so it's evident that there's some outstanding issues that need to be discussed in more detail, and specifically the private versus leased land enclosed. So with that, is there any other council questions?
If I could.
Yeah,
the only other
Mr.
thing
Blackwell.
I would want to add to that also in option number 3 is provide the architect specific direction, not 4 pieces of direction and then have him try to balance the different priorities. Because that's unfair, you can't do that. So there has to be consensus around where your priorities are, specifically that you want the architect to look at.
Okay, well, we've heard,
Yeah.
keep the kayaks where they are, rotate the building. What other, am I missing something? We've also, I think that's, well, I love the idea of the little center stage, but
Yeah.
that's, I think, landscaping. Councillor Brown?
Okay, I'm a bit concerned. I've received the budget on table, so I'm a bit concerned about that. But I think that there's, in my mind, there's a high degree of clarity as to how to proceed, which would be option 3, which would, and I believe that it would be appropriate to give the architect direction to remove the kayak from the scope, to orientate the building towards turn the building and remove it from leased land, and potentially in terms of cost saving, removing the storage and concession area. And my hope would be that it would be possible to have a covered area to the north of the building. And so in terms of, I think giving that kind of its general specific direction, I think with that information, if council is comfortable with that, then things could move forward. And we could have a special council meeting potentially next week or sometime very soon.
Okay, is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Okay, do we have, can we just put the motion forward and then we can have a discussion on it? Do we have a second on that?
Can we hear what the CEO wants to say first?
We can do that, but we can also do, okay, go ahead.
My recommendation is
Blackwell.
not to include the lease land question at this point. Talk about it in close, because there's information you need to know that you don't know. It's good that you know it all before you make your decisions. So, sorry.
Okay, I mean, I can remove the concept of lease land from motion. However, I would not remove the building on the field from the motion. My goal is to not build the building on the playing field. It is one of 2 flat areas in this community which is highly used, and it's a major mistake to build a washroom on that area.
So what you're
So my
saying is
motion-
rotate the building.
So my motion would be to rotate the building and to rotate the building and place it on Lions Bay owned land.
Okay, do we have a motion for that? You're making a motion on it?
Making a motion, and I'm
Okay.
also moving that the kayak structures be removed from the scope.
Okay, so it's remove the kayaks from the scope, orient the building to north-south. And remove storage and concessions.
Right.
Okay, a second? All right, I'll second that. Okay, discussion?
Yeah,
I would say we're putting the cart before the horse. We need to have a discussion and closed as per our staff recommendation, and the discussion on the finer details needs to come from a more collaborative session and not through motions with the architect. He needs to be given clear direction, not piecemealing things together. So I think this is an entirely premature motion and I will not support it.
Okay, Councillor Abbott?
couldn't have said it better. It's exactly what I was thinking. To get to this kind of detail, we need to have a quick, efficient, sort of sleeves rolled up kind of session to give that, it's way too early to give that level of detail, and we need to first have the closed meeting discussion. So we can't do this now, because we're just gonna come back next week and say, whoa, sorry, that doesn't work. No, we need to think about this all more carefully. I think we've got all the inputs now, I think we've got all the opinions now, I think we've got everything we need, while that one thing, and then we can have a discussion. I also think that if we did have another meeting, it would be nice to have the contractor in the room, so we can explore cost-saving options from the person that's actually holding the purse strings.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell, you asked us for clear instructions. So does this motion give clear instructions, or would you rather have something else?
What would work best is to provide that as recommendations without it being a resolution that locks this in. It provides flexibility so that it can accommodate a larger discussion, because there could be things that could change your mind that you come across. So the goal is that
At which point we
through
could
these ideas, certainly, those should be guiding the work, but putting it in the form of resolution sort of tightens it up a lot.
All right, Councilor Brown?
I think we're constantly reminded that we are providing sort of policy direction and so on, and I think there's some very clear guidelines that we're requesting staff to implement, and I think they're very clear. I don't see any difficulty with them. So I obviously made the motion, completely support the motion.
Well, I'll start with, I completely disagree with removing the kayak rack or any other scope for the taxpayers to pay 100 cents on the dollar next year to do it. I'm not there. There's more, we need to give more thoughts. We need to get this back to budget. But I can't support that for that reason anyway.
Okay.
On the one item on.
I can support it. To me, reorienting this and keeping the kayaks either out of the scope or in the same location, and the storage and concession, I think the building, in my opinion, is too big and it's gonna block it. We can orient it north-south and still achieve that view corridor. So look, this is, we had a beach park committee work on this for 18 months. Prior to that, we had fundraising events, and I know there's many councils have looked at this thing. It goes on and on. It was voted down 3-2 in council last March, and it was handed over to staff, and we didn't get it until a week ago. And now we're asked to make a decision. So I can make a decision, and based on Councillor Broughton's motion. So, okay, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. Okay,
I would like to put forward a motion that we table making a decision on this until we've had such discussion in closed. And then we set a date for a special council meeting as early next week as possible to then have these discussions to provide clear direction.
I'd definitely be for that, but the only issue with that is we've got a councillor now that's missed 16 meetings. And so we can't count on him. And we've had other councillors that have missed 8 meetings. And and those are special meetings and council
Point of order,
meetings.
please. It's not.
That's
it's not a
actually
discussion here,
irrelevant
please.
to the discussion right now.
I
It's
was
not
second,
helpful.
I was
And
second, Jamie.
special meetings that were called without quorum being met and knowing ahead of time that that was not going to be the case, does not constitute a missed meeting.
Councilor
I
Brown?
wonder if, I don't, is there any need to table this? I mean, the motion has been defeated. I think.
We have a second motion.
Mr.
that I was-
Blackwell,
We have a second motion that I was trying to
I'm
second.
asking staff and corporate officer, Mr. Blackwell, what do you need now to move forward?
Well, as I explained earlier, what we'll do is take the comments we've heard from the table, around the table, from council. There's a further discussion before I have a discussion with Mr. Ray on this to make sure council is firm with regard to where it wants to go. And then we can have that conversation about what these elements that council identified look like.
This is completely.
All right, so,
Okay,
did you want to make
control
the
the
motion?
hour.
Yeah, make a motion, sorry,
I'll second Jamie's motion, one
can
friendly
you repeat
amendment.
the motion again?
The motion is to table this decision until we hear information that staff will provide us in closed, of which we can set a date for a special council meeting as soon as we can next week. That will accommodate everybody's schedule with the commitment that we will all be there.
So you want to call it, you potentially are going to call a special meeting, which two councilors can do, or a mayor and a councilor,
Yes.
and set it for next week.
That's
And
what
we'll-
I'm.
Okay,
Friendly
do we
amendment.
need a motion for that, Mr. Blackwell?
Well, we can do it, but we don't need a motion, but please don't give us next week. There's a lot of moving pieces. Organizationally, and it's gonna be hard work to get this sorted out.
Okay, Councilor Cunliffe, do you want to go forward with the motion or withdraw it?
I will amend the motion that we call a special council meeting as soon as possible, working with staff's schedule so that we can ensure that it's successful.
Okay, and that'll take two councilors or a mayor and a councilor, so
Correct.
I'm fine with that. Do we have a second on that?
I will second it. I was gonna
Okay.
suggest we could do it on Thursday. Maybe we have to wait till next week, but whatever.
Okay, all in favor?
No, speaking against the motion.
Yeah,
A special meeting can be called at any time. At the call of two councilors or the mayor. And I think once we have information, I don't think we need to be tabling, don't need to be doing anything. We're just saying what the process in fact is. So I would be opposed to tabling. I just.
okay. I also am disagreeing. We've called many special meetings and we all know that it's two councilors that can call a special meeting or a councilor and a mayor. And there's been many meetings that councilors have not shown up for. So I'll call the question. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Opposed, motion defeated. If we choose to call a special meeting next week, any two councilors can call it.
Okay, we've
Or a mayor.
heard that now. That'll be about the sixth time. I think everybody is very well how the
Okay.
process works and we don't need to keep
And well,
doubling down on information that is pretty basic and elementary.
would
We are
you like
now.
to pass a resolution that staff look at absenteeism for councilors since this is
That is
Can you
relevant?
actually
please
not
stop?
on the agenda,
Or
it's
the
not a
stop.
discussion.
Matter subject here, we're not having one of your political soapbox.
Yeah,
sessions.
Mr. Blackwell.
Council, you have a guest.
Who I'm sure would like to.
We'd like to move on. Nick,
Thanks very much, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll move to the committees, the infrastructure committee, 8.2. Oh, sorry, we had readjusted the agenda. We'll go back to the finance and budget for the second reading. Mr. Cherkoff.
Sure.
Second.
Sure.
Did you want
I'll
Judy?
go get it.
No, we don't want to. I can do that.
Yeah, Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Cherkoff.
So second to the chair. apologies for the pagination when replacing a public works budget. From the last version, it overwrote the administrative slides. So that was resent yesterday, such that the complete package is there. Substance, nothing's really changed. Because there has been some input from the infrastructure committee, which they'll be presenting later. Through that, it's just reiterating the priorities for the capital budget from the infrastructure committee. However, the capital plan is there. Where we left off in our last meeting, we discussed operational budgets. There were some requests for direction. I haven't had any feedback since our last meeting. I have met with a counselor to go through some questions and provide more context regarding certain costs, and those questions have been addressed. However, for the purposes of this meeting, this is the second reading, and I look forward to our next committee of the whole meeting to go in further detail on anything we want to discuss or modify, in particular solidifying the property tax rate increase, and as we look to start generating our utility bills, and providing the draft bylaws for the utility bills for the current year, so we start getting that billing going. That we have some comfort on the current 5%, 5%, 5%, which somebody has really said no. In fact, from what I understand, he's really okay with it. So that's what it is.
Sorry, I've been questioning the 5% all the way along here.
Yeah. Oh, for the property tax.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll certainly lead to it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Again, landing on where we want to sit with the property tax increase would be great. I look forward to direction from council.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell, anything to add? And we look for a second reading on?
Yeah, just to remind council, even if council is so minded to give the second reading, there's still lots of runway left to make any additional changes. The primary purpose of second reading is to make sure this thing keeps going forward. It doesn't sort of bog down. So, you know, if this is looking good enough to support for second reading, great. If it's far short of that, then we may not want to consider getting ready.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions. Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for that update yesterday. I haven't had a chance to look at that yet. But I've got just one, well, I looked at it really brief, just one question. On the 2024 actuals, we still seem to be not having captured all the salaries correctly, correct?
As we talked about last week, we're missing 2 pay periods.
2 pay periods. Okay, so by by Tuesday's meeting, or next week, the following week, committee of the whole meeting, will we have all the actuals in, including staff costs?
Everything, I will have everything year to date. It's been inputted, and there are some year-end adjustments that we may not get through, just reallocations, but everything that's booked, and especially payroll, will be on the dock.
So everything's paid by December will be in there. Okay, so I'd like to see that before we do a second reading. That's the one thing I think that should be in there, because third reading will be done. But I thought tonight, I don't think we've had a proper discussion on the capital costs. We have any agreement as to what we want to go ahead with and don't want to go ahead with. I would like us to do that discussion tonight, hence the infrastructure committee recommendations which were attached. And I think that we can do all of that tonight. The next committee of the whole meeting, we have pretty close to a finalized budget, and maybe we're going to a special meeting and do a second reading then, would be my thoughts. But let's see how well we get through the capex and supplemental OpEx costs, which we haven't discussed yet.
All right, with that, shall we move to the infrastructure committee recommendations?
Yeah, I could go through those and then we could go back to the budget, and then I'll just go through those quickly for you. And then you go back to the budget and you can see them all. That's what you want to, is that what we suggested?
Okay. Yeah,
Sure.
let's go to the, especially the capital expenditures.
Page 56. Okay, so as this report has largely been seen before, but didn't happen before is there wasn't clear sort of ranking of the various options. So the infrastructure, and that's the blue text that I've added. Anything that's changed is actually blue text.
Sorry, what page you on?
156. And now we move to 157. Okay, so the first option, number one, this is top priority is replacement of the undersized cast iron and asbestos cement pipes. So that was what was proposed previously, those two smaller projects, working with the Public Works and the Director of Operations. In the last council meeting, this has been reviewed, and what we are proposing is not to do that first little sketch you're seeing on page 156. The priority is what's on top of page 157, which is replacement of the 150 millimeter or 6-inch cast iron pipe that goes from down this office area up and down Bayview up to Alberta Creek. So that's the piece of pipe that we think is the highest priority. Director of Operations has shown us last time all the rust nodules that came out of it, and it's probably about 2 inches in diameter, creating fire flow issues. So that's the priority. That is $1.3 million. That is our number one priority.
I think I asked the question last time, but have we considered, or has staff had a chance to consider the street elevation and the potential development of the cafe in that area and how that might affect? Has that been something that, yeah, Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you. That's something that Mr. Burr and I have talked about at a very, very high level. Ideally, that would be something that would be done, but that would also increase the budget quite substantially. It would have the effect, in theory, of resolving the issue of the slope, the driveway slope in front of the fire hall, and so forth. With regard to potential, the servicing of a potential new development, the store property, and even potentially the townhomes here, and what sizing, I don't know whether or not that's been contemplated. Maybe that's a conversation that Mr. Burr and I can have as well.
Yeah, Councillor Abbott.
When I looked at these drawings, and I may be wrong, I believe the townhouses are serviced by the 8-inch pipeline that comes down from the mag tank, because it says one drawing that drops to 2-inch and goes and feeds the hall. So I think, I don't think changing this pipeline affects whatever redevelopment gets considered at some point in the future down here. I may be wrong, but I'm relatively confident I'm correct.
Is
Yes.
that something that council could look into?
Do you
Or
know the
not
answer?
council, I mean staff?
Yeah,
Well, I can speak to it immediately if you like.
Yeah.
If I may. So, the townhouses are currently sized, they're mainly sized for fire flow. So they're more than adequate for that. Any upsizing required for a larger development would be a DCC, the development cost charge, so they would change any mains that need to be changed. The line, I'm pointing at lines, nobody knows what I'm talking about. The line starts off at the fire hydrant here, runs up past the fire hall to an isolation valve. Currently, we are feeding this line that runs past the hall and feeds the condos from the PRV 5, which is Upper Bayview, which is fed from the PRV at the top of Bayview across from Harvey. So it's currently fed from Harvey. It can be fed from MAG, but we currently haven't configured we can do either.
Yeah.
The reason we don't have it fed from MAG right now is we have one pipe right behind this one that needs replacement, and that's the so-called DUD project, the one that runs from Mountain down to the school. It's also undersized. It's not undersized for the same reason this one is, because this is cast iron, it's rusted. The other one was undersized from the beginning.
Mr. Blackwell?
Thanks, just one finer point on what Mr. Burr is talking about. Latecomers fees are another thing that could be applied to that for future development. So for those that don't know about latecomers fees, they're permitted by statute, so local government act sets that out, you're allowed to charge them for a period of 15 years, which basically means anybody that takes advantage of any additional infrastructure work has a cost apportioned to them. Downside is if sometimes people wait 15 years before they do anything, then it doesn't apply, but where there's development pressure, where there's an opportunity, it's a relatively inconsequential cost. So it's another tool to claw back some of the cost.
Councilor Brown?
I'm just interested to know, if we're talking about, for the sake of argument, putting in a 6-inch pipe and the cost of doing so, okay, versus the cost of putting in an 8-inch pipe and so clearly, what's the difference in the cost of the pipe, I guess, would be my question. If it's possible that there's development in the future there, that perhaps the differential could be kept track of and charged as a development charge at some point. It just seems to me, digging up of roads is not the best option if we can plan in any way.
If I may, through the chair, so the proposition is to do this in HDPE, there's very little difference in price between 6 and 8-inch HDPE. The issue is we can't have too big a pipe either, because this is the end of the line, there will be stagnant water. The point I was making about the fact this size for fire flow is you take an extremely large number of additional users that would tax the capacity of the pipe. It's already sized for fire flow. So we can put many more users on potable flow than we have right now.
Yeah.
So this would all have to be engineered, obviously. The hydraulic model is established. We will obviously check what size pipe it needs to be for average residence time in the pipe, because it is the end of the line. As it is, we have to blow it off because we don't get good chlorine. Chlorine is sampled in the tap here. In terms of sizing, we'll get the sizing right. The incremental cost is not high.
Mr. Blackwell?
Sorry, just a finer small point. Part of that conversation can include potential of twinning a line and leaving it on a valve to close it off, and if it was ever needed, it's there.
Right.
Can I try and move this conversation along? Try and move this conversation along. Cole's point about the fire flow is correct. The other point you got to realize is every other pipe from there up to anywhere is only 6-inch. So by making the bottom one bigger, you don't get anything. It doesn't limit whatever you think you might want to do, and it doesn't give you any more. And it's only that one little piece of it. I'm pointing at my screen, unfortunately. But, the one little piece of it that actually can come down towards the tunnel, it's not going to give you anything. But let's just leave that for a final decision on the design.
Creativity.
It costs a little more than incremental. The bigger pipe takes longer to weld, longer to cool down. It all costs more money. The trench needs to be a little bit bigger. All of those things. But anyway, I don't think we need to get in that detail. The question is, this is a big number, $1.3 million, and that's a fairly high level estimate anyway. So regardless, we increase the pipe by 2 inches. It's not relevant. And the committee recommends, the public works manager supports that this is the #1 priority of all the pipes that we need to do. And I think everyone agrees, certainly on the committee, that it's time we replace a pipeline. Actually, it's 10 years late that we replaced the pipeline. And if we don't start doing it now, they're going to start blowing up in our faces in a few years. So that's the recommendation.
All right, next item.
The next item is the SCADA operation rework, which I won't go into details. We've gone through this before. You've seen this report before. It's an additional $95,000 to complete all the activities that we've wanted to do in the past, as well as some modifications to what's important. So that's the second important priority. The third priority would be the pH adjustment. I think we've discussed this before. This is due to the SOE water we have, and for the two tanks, that would be $200,000, $100,000 each. Once again, a fairly high level estimate, but we have some good experienced technical people that have looked at that. The fourth option that's on the report is the bridge end repairs. But I think we moved on from this. We have budget already at the moment. We may even have enough budget to do all of the bridges. The suggestion was, don't add any more. Let's get this work done, get the first one done, see what we got left. Potentially we can do all of it. If we have to come back and do another couple of the less critical ones in another year, that's fine. So that was, I think that's the suggestion where we're going with that. There's a few culvert repair options that are shown in the CapEx budget. The one that crosses Bailey Road at Stewart is the one that is critically important to get done. We can look at that once again when we get to the budget. So those are the four recommendations that the infrastructure committee would like to see go ahead with. So with that in the background, we can always come back to this if you need me to. I think we should move to the budget sheet and start talking about CapEx costs.
All right, Joe, back to you.
I have some notes and I'm happy to lead that discussion if we want on the infrastructure side, or let Joe present it and however you want to go.
Joe, why don't you walk through it, and if there's anything need
So,
from us, let us know.
right, yeah, so, no changes from the previous version,
Hey, can you help us out with page number?
page 66 of 229. Maybe the first one. And so this includes the.
67 of the original package.
One page left, the new one. So that includes the costs that were currently included or discussed by infrastructure. We've all seen this a few times already, so if there's, I would defer to Councillor Abbott for his detailed questions here, and leave that conversation as we refine the focus on these.
All right, Councillor Abbott, any comments?
Okay, I think it's cleaner if we look at the other two spreadsheets that are lower down. The one on page 69 of the original package, which is now 70. Have the same numbers, it's just laid out in a different way. But first, I think it would be better if we spoke about supplemental operating costs. I think one of them seems to be due.
Sorry, what page now?
Page 70 of the original package, 71 if you got the one that was sent earlier today, I believe. This is spreadsheet titled Supplemental Operating Costs. I don't know if it's if Cole joined us at the table, because a lot of these questions are going to go back to him. There's the first one on the list is the Crystal Falls Road resurfacing Crystal Falls Road under the operational costs.
I don't think the chair heard your suggestion.
Sorry, we're, logistics, sir.
My suggestion
Talking about
was
our corporate officer may have to leave at a certain hour here, so. What was the comment?
my suggestion was that Cole joined us at the table.
Oh, yeah, Carl,
You need a motion.
I'm joining, we need a motion.
No, just.
He's in motion already. No, he's in motion.
He was in motion already.
Okay, just, sorry, before you get going, Ross apparently has to leave, just after 10, so I think, we'll try to get wrapped up in the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Well, I can gavel these off pretty quickly. You've seen many of them, so there will be some changes, starting with the first one, Crystal Falls Road. As we know, that's the site of the current declaration of local emergency. We don't want to be resurfacing Crystal Falls Road if we're expecting track vehicles, heavy equipment going up and down there. So I would suggest that we pull this one this year.
Okay. 40,000 for mag intake road access.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Carl, can I get an update on whether there is any damage? Because if there is, in theory, we can claim for repairs.
There's no current damage to the road.
Are you sure?
I looked.
You wanna look again?
I can look again.
Thanks.
A lot more trucks going to be going.
It's very
on.
muddy.
Tom look harder.
But
The damaged edges to the road perhaps.
Recent damage,
Pretty sure there might be.
yeah,
Big trucks.
Okay,
it's a different item to this budget item though.
I know, I just didn't wanna lose that.
Okay.
I thought, yeah.
So the Mag access road is done. It's beating up trucks, something awful. It is, as you may remember, the subject of a potential public washroom to be built at the tunnel bus Y that will require $1 million project to ditch, culvert and regrade. But before we get there, if we ever do, we need to spend about 40 grand to re-ditch. We've already started the ditching effort. Internal, we would probably keep doing that internally, if not contracted out, maybe half. One culvert needs to be replaced. This is on the dirt road past the gate, and we need to drop a lot of road base so that we can get up there in future.
He also has in the budget a public works helicopter for that purpose as well.
Okay. Well,
When you
I'll
get out of here.
just remind you, I did ask for an all-terrain vehicle last year, but it's
You never
also shut down. So I didn't ask the helicopter.
all right, we're running short of time.
Okay, we
so
have to go, let's go
continue
quickly.
on.
There's 3 sets of summer tires, that's sort of, we have to have that. B service on 72 hydrants. You'll remember that we completed the AB service in 24. This is half the price. We're supposed to do B service annually. So we want to keep doing that. Refloor the Smith building. That's always been delayed for 10 years. The linoleum, asbestos linoleum is now shredding. We want to put down engineered vinyl, because the floor's done. So, okay.
Bridge end.
Bridge end project, as you know, is underway. I keep being told they're going to start when the weather's improved. I don't know what better weather they could want than now. We currently have committed $105,000 to 3 bridges. Depending on what we find there, this budget might be adequate for all of them, or I might have to come back. But that's currently being dedicated to those 3 bridges, 4, 5, and 7.
It was budgeted last year.
That was last year's budget brought forward, yeah. Okay. $200,000 on the drought emergency reserve. I said in there it's supposed to be recovered, so that should be minus 200.
Yeah.
Reassign.
So if I may, just for transparency, so that was originally a recovery because we weren't going to use it anymore. However, that reserve is now reapportioned to extra costs related to Botany Creek by special council meeting.
Okay, that's not a public works issue. So it needs to come out of the public works budget. Increased vehicle maintenance budget. Our vehicles are aging. We've just had head gasket replacement, we had an oil pan, spring leak, et cetera. Rather than buy and or lease new ones, we just need to up the maintenance budget. So this is an increase on the existing maintenance budget. Recycling depot, this one has been long approved. The recycling container is on the way. We're unpacking the 40-foot in order to make room for it. The 40-foot's going to go in the back. It's going to look quite nice. Good news. Fully funded by Recycle BC. You'll be pleased to know.
Awesome.
Newly agreed to by them. Sewer ingress and infiltration, 6 manholes. We want to grout 6 manholes. We know the ones that we need to grout. They are leaking inordinate amount of water into the sewage treatment plant, especially in the winter when the ground tables are. The leaking strainer at PRV1, I'm sorry to tell you this, we already did it, but I probably should ask for the budget now. It was $8,900. It was a vital repair, not in budget, and this is not CapEx. I'll just remind us all this. Can't remember how we paid for it. Replacement of 4 leaking isolation valves at both plants. This has been previously a capital item that we took off. It was previously $48,000 until somebody asked them to sharpen their pencils, and they halved the price. Amazing. Fixed the southwest abutment of Lysby Avenue Bridge over Harvey. This is a hard cost, including structural engineering. It's a fairly simple design that is going to require some trees to be lost, but it will be a long-term solution. It will put in a wing wall to protect the buttress against
any future flood. It's going to be concrete block based. I know Councillor Broughton's had this on his flag for a very long time. We would have gone, this is a must-do item. This is more for information. I need additional OpEx budget, and this is the number.
I mean, that's dangerous as a whole.
Okay,
The hydrovac service calls, this is in addition to the water budget. This is over and above the existing water budget, but I'm putting it under public works because this is how we now have to fix leaks. We hydrovac them safer, quicker, and more thorough. Unfortunately, hydrovac is $4,800, $4,000 a day.
So, how many did you do this year?
12. That's where I got the number from.
So you can have another 12 next year?
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like a lot.
I don't know what the proportion will ever be, but they're mostly on the private side, which we don't have to do. So it's really the number of public side leaks that we have to address, and those are going to be hard to predict.
do they end up being close to where the fitting is to the private?
Almost invariably, yeah. Yeah.
Well, why is that? Is that
Because-
the same piping or?
It's where the trees are.
It's the trees end at the property line, and they start at the property line. So roots. It's not so much roots. It's the tree that was this big before is now this big, and it's pushed rocks into the line. The other thing is, especially on the uphill properties, people have built their retaining wall on the property line. Not surprising, which is also where the curb stop is. So we find damage right near the curb stop very often. We also find a lot of private side damage up the yard because people put the line there where it was easier to dig rather than up their driveway. We don't fix those. The private property owners, in 9 cases out of 10, they do it reluctantly, but they do it. We've just got a few cases now where there's been some denial, where the private property owner doesn't do it. This money is for public side leaks.
Yeah, okay.
Power and data mag intake, that project's underway. The electrician was actually up there today to see how much was needed. We just measured the distance, 880 meters. We're gonna run a 40 amp cable, 600 volt cable up there to do all kinds of good things. It's called Magic, in fact. It's an acronym.
Gearbox you need, light fixtures, simple.
Light fixtures is already been done. Asking after the fact. Gearbox, we used a spare gearbox, but when the other one gave up the ghost, it is cheaper to buy a new one rather than refurb the old one, which is why I'm asking for it. And that's it for public works.
Good.
Okay, good. Joe, anything else?
Just for direction,
Oh, sorry, I thought that was you leaving.
No.
You're right behind Jamie.
for fire, there's the increase in the fire truck reserve. This was discussed before. We've had $50,000 in the budget before. Now we're hoping to increase it to $100,000 to save for our fire truck. So that is the supplemental increase for the current year.
And a capex.
So we're putting it to a reserve.
It says office.
And then the request from Chief Barrett, Jerpchide, to increase pay rates for on-call to closer to market, and that would incur about $50,000 per year for volunteer call-out hours. That currently not included in the budget, as I have heard, just generally that I'm not quite sure where that was going to land. It was subject to consideration by council, so seeking direction by council if I should remove that from the budget or keep it in the budget and actually incorporate it in the line items for the fire department budget. So direction would be appreciated.
You had talked about inviting him back to chat with us.
He was playing pickleball today downstairs. Maddie, but yes, I've invited him back, and he's willing to come back and speak to it again as invited.
Good then. By the way, there's been some comments about people that online could hear the pickleball and couldn't hear us.
Yeah, I think we might need to have a little,
Pick another night, not Tuesday.
Yeah. When I was
Okay.
online your last
Right,
meeting.
you were
it
asking, sounded like
sounded-
dogs
It
barking.
sounded like there was dogs barking and it was, or like a pack of coyotes. It was very
Yeah,
distracting.
we're gonna have to.
Okay, Joe, is there anything you want to hit on? We're not gonna call for the second reading, it seems. Council's willing to defer this
Just
over.
in terms of the fire, I'd like to have a lot more information on that in terms of if we're competitive with on-call for non-volunteer fire departments, or, I think just need a lot more
Okay,
information.
Mr. Chirkov.
If I may, Chief Jernstrad has presented an email to me, showing current market rates for 3 different municipalities.
Okay.
Just to justify his.
Why don't you bring that to the community as a whole? Okay.
Okay.
All right, time's running by
So
on us here,
what do we-
9:53, so.
What do we want to do about time? Because it's page 69 hasn't been discussed, which is the rest of the CapEx. What do you want to do to committee on the whole meeting?
We're not gonna
What-
vote on it tonight. Why don't we do it as a committee of the
Yeah.
whole?
If I may,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, please, I had a very productive conversation with Councillor Abbott last week, refining his questions. It would be very much appreciated during this time between now and the next committee of the full meeting to either take advantage of time to me in person, whenever you like. I'll stop just providing
Why
time.
don't you formally throw up 2 times?
I can do that.
Do that,
Okay.
okay? And then everyone has a equal chance here.
But also, I would appreciate if you have a chance to review anything and have questions in advance, ask me so I can prepare for it.
Email that out because Council Ryder's not here,
Okay.
so
Right.
email 2
Okay.
times.
And I've emailed you a couple of questions.
Yeah,
so-
I saw the infrastructure went on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else before we move on and try to cover a couple other topics here before? we lose our meeting? Okay, climate action, nothing, no decision to be made. Anything you want to add
Okay,
to that?
yeah, no, we need to do that one. So, sure. Well, Carl as well, I don't know who's in, so, okay, I'll take it that you've all read what I wrote in the
Yeah.
in the logic, is that safe to assume? So what this is, so this is not a budget ask, because we approved it last year. Right? What it is we have LG cap, and all of this is funded by LG cap money. In case anyone was wondering, it's not a CapEx ask. Even last year it wasn't, because it's funded. It's grant funded. We have LG cap money now up to $102,000. With this current year or next year's spend, we would expect to have $153,000, whatever the number is. What the province came and told us was, hey, we're going to give you 3 years at once. So we actually now have technically $250,000. The $100,000 was tight, not enough to get the project done. The $102,000, the $150,000, we felt we could do the simplified scope. That's just the oil burning furnaces, the minute and replacing the heat pump. Sorry, replacing the ovens with a heat pump and doing the high efficiency fire research. That we felt we could probably get away with 150, but it was kind of tight. Then, as you all remember, along came a grant. The grant is for $600,000. It incorporates all of that, solar panels on the roof, all that kind of stuff. I don't want to go into that again. If we get the grant, right, we have more than enough here to pay our 20%, and we can do the whole $600,000. We'll have lots of money left over. We can do the bigger thing, which included future proofing for future EV chargers by putting a $200,000 kiosk, get an extra power, all of that, if we get the grant. If we don't get the grant, we go back to the simplified scope. Here's the rub. That $102,000 was meant to be spent this year. We got a concession that if we commit the money by March, the $102,000, we're okay as long as we install it sometimes later in the summer was used, but any time of the year would be fine. So what we're trying to do is buy time to see if we get the grant. If we don't get the grant, we can pull the trigger. But in the meantime, we have to do what I asked in this budget. We have to award 3 contracts. We have to buy the heat pumps, and we have to tell them we don't want you to install it for 3 months or whatever it needs, depending on the grant timing. We're going to have to buy the wood burning insert, and we're going to have to define the smaller scope, because we've got a budget for the big scope, the smaller scope and the BC Hydro costs, which can either be the workshop or the staff working with the electrical consultant that we spoke about, but I think there might be some costs involved, or we're gonna have to go get a designer. Those 3 items with some contingency will take us to the $102,000 and will stop us from losing our grant. Problem is, we've got 2 months to do it, who's doing it, and it needs to happen now.
Okay,
Joe, any comments on what I just said?
No, that's totally correct.
Okay.
All the numbers fit.
any,
Just a minor comment. So Carl and I were talking about that issue today, and Carl's concern being that we don't know if there's gonna be staff available to do that, so we may need to factor in somebody to project manage that.
I have a contingency in my spreadsheet, as you'll notice. We can get, if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do, but we can't afford not to get these purchase
I
orders
just wanna-
in 2 months.
Just want you to.
Council Broughton, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wondering, fully support the concept of heat pumps. Has there been any more work done around
Wells,
around
around geothermal.
geothermal?
Okay, now, you'll notice if you look at my report, I put a line in there when we go out to get the RFP for the heat pumps, we're gonna ask the vendors to provide optional pricing for other technologies, including geothermal. And then we'll at least have a number and decide if it has any legs. I've got a feeling it might. If we don't get the big budget, it'll blow the small budget.
Yeah.
But that we're gonna put that option in the RFP.
No,
So you'll have some real numbers.
okay, so the heat pumps, by putting in the heat pumps with geothermal, they then don't require the backup heat.
You then don't require the backup.
Backup heat, yeah, because you have consistent.
I don't think the heat pumps on geothermal will draw any less power than the air.
No, it's not power, it's whether you have backup heat. When the heat pumps are no longer efficient at cold temperature. Whereas if you have geothermal, you have a constant source of heat.
Okay,
So-
sorry to interrupt, resolution to continue the meeting has been well, it does not be unanimous, resolution, someone move,
So moved.
second, okay, second by Councillor Cunliffe, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Moved by Councillor Broughton, Kelsey.
Okay, all in favor,
Aye.
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just. Cause my, yeah,
I can address that. It will operate at a lower temperature,
Right.
same amount of power.
So
It's not
yeah,
really-
exactly, yeah, but without backup heat,
Potentially won't need backup heating elements, correct?
exactly, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Potentially.
But it doesn't mean you'll be able to run off the existing generator.
No, still same power draw.
We have, but
Just one-
but the existing generator was running, was 200 amps, 400 amps,
Yeah, I don't remember the power balance.
yeah.
Okay,
So
I love the
well,
idea of the heat pumps, I'd like to see geothermal if it could swing, but that's good, so
Keep
you're
it as an
factoring that in.
Yeah.
If there needs to, and this is again, probably a little bit off project, but with sea level rise, if we need to direct any funds, we have excess funds, think about that waterfront if we can, because I'm sure that that could qualify.
Yeah, part of the climate action committee's mandate is both greenhouse gas emissions and climate resilience, and
Yeah.
that falls into climate resilience. Would only happen if we get the grant, otherwise we're gonna spend all of it or close to.
Sure, okay,
Okay,
all right, anything else on that?
do we need a motion to tell staff to go forth, or? You
I
have
don't
it,
think so. I mean, you can, I don't think so, I think it's pretty clear,
okay.
as long as it's captured as an action item.
Okay, so the question is, if you are using a project manager, how do we transfer this information? How do we get this
Well, don't
going?
worry about that piece, Carl and I have to talk more on it,
Okay,
I'm just putting that, flagging that in case.
If I may, I mean, the initial piece is relatively within our capabilities. But even if you're not gonna vote on the recommendation, can I just understand what was intended by contract 3, contractors, consultants to commit? What's the idea there?
so you said that again, Carl?
You want us to tender this
I
phase
think it
1?
was
Yes.
to contact 3, or was it to
What-
contract?
So what page are we on?
166.
Oh, 166.
CSC recommends council direct staff to contract 3 contractors
Yeah.
/ consultants to
Contract.
commit to the 2022-2023 LG cap funds by the end of March 2025.
The point being that that's tender, and if you want us to tender it, we're not gonna make much.
Okay, so, I'm not asking to do anything other than comply with the procedure, the purchasing policy.
I realize that, so
Now,
if I
so-
may through the chair, we would need a waiver of the purchasing policy, because I can't do this and the work.
So there's three separate purchase order contracts here, right? One for this electrical upgrade and design, which is 20,000.
Oh, so just award them to individual people?
Yes, the second one is for heat pumps, and we have one quote already enclosed. You need a few more, and you need 3 quotes.
Verbal or written.
You need written at that value, and I think, remember, I think they have to go on the village website, but you don't have to go to BC Bid. Definitely don't need to go to BC Bid. And then the fireplace insert, you just need 3 quotes, which you've already got, because I've given them to you.
No BC bid for the stuff.
Okay, so all of this can be done as long as we do them 3 separately.
Okay, so we don't need any approvals, we all good on that? Okay, well, we'll move to.
Stuff still needs the council direction.
Do you want a resolution?
No, yeah, just a
I thought
basic
you
fine,
said
yeah.
we didn't.
You know, but if Carl's more comfortable,
Yeah, so I've got something written down. I said, council would like to direct staff to execute 3 contracts as described in phase 1 of this report.
Okay,
I'll
motion,
second.
second, okay, all in favor?
sorry, just for Kelsey, moved by,
Moved by Councillor Abbott, seconded by
Yeah.
Councillor Cunliffe.
So this question. So you're suggesting going ahead with the fireplace insert,
Yes,
although it was determined that it wasn't actually required as backup heat
it is required.
It is required, yeah.
for under, if the power goes out.
Yes.
That was my understanding of the power requirement.
100%. We've done this many times. We've been doing this over the years. Yes.
If I may, through the chair, I mean,
That's
you know,
what
that's
I'm-
somewhat of an academic exercise. Where's the wood gonna go? The flue has to be cleaned. Let's just hope there's not a power outage and we need to use the hall. It's only under an emergency circumstance. If we open up the hall as an ESS receiving center.
But my understanding was that there was enough, when the power was analyzed, there was enough power.
No, there isn't.
generated.
To run the
To
heat
run
pumps,
heat
but not
pumps.
to run the supplemental heaters. So that's why geothermal would be extremely.
That was my point, yeah. So the saving from the wood burning units would pay for the differential with the heat pumps likely.
We,
Yeah. Now, at the same time, I really appreciated your comments or your information regarding the cloud building. So right now, we're looking at one little pocket. So if we start doing some drilling for heat pumps for here, then we can also look pretty seriously at the cloud building, because cloud building has sort of a hodgepodge of electric, propane, and different things. And so if that could be put into once we've got that drilling done, that's good for 200 years for any building, no matter what's here.
Sure.
So it starts to make some sense, whereas, the external units, we're looking at 10 to 15-year life.
And if I could just
Lifespan.
interject, not to get too much into the weeds right now.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
quite
want to-
concerned about air handlers, where they would go, where the current oil tanks are. If that's not where we're gonna end up putting the wood pile, because it's very close to the neighbor.
just if I could, there's two bylaws here that need to be considered by council, and you are fast running.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. We'll call a question on that. All in favor?
Yes.
yes.
Opposed?
I'd like to relook at that, but yeah, it's fine.
Moving on.
Okay, motion carried.
Yeah.
Okay, trees landscape, that's 133 application for 132, 145 Panorama Place. Everyone has the information on that. All the neighbors are in favor of it. Are there any questions on that?
No,
Okay, motion to approve that.
Yes.
Okay,
Second,
moved by Councillor Cunliffe, seconded by Councillor Broughton. All in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Okay, next item is the water bylaw number 633, 2025, third reading.
so moved.
Okay, seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
I
want to talk to it.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Can I have the page? Oh, never mind, I got it.
Trying to get there myself.
180.
180.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the report. Okay, so Carl, we discussed a few things last time. Some of the changes are in here. On item let me do this again. Part 3, item 8. One of the suggestions I made last time that I thought we all agreed to, or you agreed to, was to add in there without prior approval of the municipality to allow for current situations that have been grandfathered.
I don't remember the term grandfather.
Oh, no, I didn't use the word grandfather. I'm saying we wanted to add in there without prior approval of the municipality. And I'm saying that would allow for grandfathering of current agreements.
In what regard? Sorry. Are we looking at the water bylaw?
Okay,
What page,
yes,
John?
page 189.
Okay.
Part 3, number 8, it says no person shall at any time or in any manner bury, cover, obstruct, access any feature connected to the water system by placing or planting thereupon or in the vicinity of in front of that, without prior approval, because we have some of those situations already that are granted and approved.
I don't want that. I need to be able to get at the curb stop.
The curb stop is the next part of it. This doesn't necessarily talk to curb stop, this talks to water lines.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's nobody who's grandfathered allowed to have built over a water main, except maybe the beach park washroom. But if you want to see that, I can put it in because it doesn't apply to anybody that I know. But it means we won't get this third reading. I should perhaps say that it's less imperative to do the third reading because it was supposed to be done. The bylaw was supposed to be passed before I left, which was going to be in a week, but that's no longer happening. So we don't have to rush this, and I'm more than prepared for you to provide extra comments if you'd like to see them. And I remember the discussion. I have it written down, but for some reason I don't remember why I didn't put it in, but I didn't. It was going to be for section. I remember even writing down section 8. But I can certainly. I need the provision to force people to move an obstruction from anywhere touching the water or impacting the water system.
Okay, we've got a motion on the table.
I would like to see that in there, and I believe there are circumstances.
So maybe we should bring this back.
Yeah, I have 2 other minor comments as well that, sure, do you want to bring it back?
So you want to table
Yeah, I
it?
could,
Motion to table.
I could talk to you separately, Carl, if you like.
Yeah, because I don't want to change section 8, so it's gonna.
Okay, motion to table.
Motion to table.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Bylaw 640, bylaw notice enforcement bylaw 20006. 2006. Amendment bylaw 640, 2025, third reading. Motion.
So moved.
Okay, second.
So what am I missing?
Okay.
Oh, this is
Moved by
the,
Councillor Broughton, seconded by Councillor Cunliffe.
okay, yeah, this is
Comments?
this is the
196.
fee schedule. If we're not doing the water bylaw, does it make sense to pass this fee schedule?
They sort of go in hand, but there are some in here that would be nice to have beforehand, specifically related.
Well, my concerns about the other one don't affect the fee schedule, so I'm okay with that if that's what you want to do. And just they're all connected, but sure.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, correspondence. Okay, who's looking after that
I
now?
am,
Is it-
I think,
Okay.
yeah. We can go through this pretty fast. Still get the page number. Are we still trying to do closed meetings or not?
No. Sounds like we're
Okay,
rushing through.
I missed the ferry.
You missed the ferry.
They've changed the schedule apparently.
Oh, okay.
I just found out.
so you got all night,
We'll go back in and close.
so you got all night and you're going to
We'll
close.
keep going all night long.
Well, we got
You
till 10:30.
right.
You sleeping here? Okay,
Okay.
all right, correspondence, I'll go through quickly. Nominations for the Order of British Columbia Medal for Good Citizenship. If you know anyone, you've got until April the 4th. we get it in. The next one is a report on Metro Vancouver's walkability index. I looked at it, nothing that directly affects us, lots of talk about North Van and other areas that are densifying and how this is increasing the walkability index, but it's nothing to do with or outlying areas like us. The next one is a type 3 amendment for the city of Surrey on the Metro 2050. I don't think we necessarily care, we have a dog in the race, it doesn't ask us to do anything. And the next one is a request for a proclamation of BC epilepsy from BC Epilepsy Society. I'm open if we want to do that. Just, I can't remember what the date was. They wanted us to declare that BC
March 26th.
March 26th.
Let's support that. We could just put a notice in the, put it in the village update.
Resolution.
Okay, we'll move to celebrate this on March 26th. Therefore,
Yes, so
okay, motion for that.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
yes.
Opposed, motion carries.
Can you just say that for Kelsey?
Why don't we provide them with the
Resolution.
The resolution, it's a whole page.
No, just who moved it, who seconded it?
Oh, moved
Sorry,
by,
moved by Councillor Broughton, seconded by Councillor Cunliffe.
Broken
Yeah.
Conliffe. BC.
Okay, the next one is a SIT report. You will go read it. There's another report from the Independent Contractors Business Association, and I didn't see any ask in there, nothing we need to look at. Read it for your information. The next one was Metro Vancouver economic impact of industrial lands. Once again, interesting read, doesn't affect us, we don't have any industrial lands. And then I'm sure we're all elated to hear CBC News is expanding their local service, and they have a reporter dedicated to the Sea to Sky. So we can all get
Great.
more input from CBC. Resident correspondence, there was 3, that one didn't have an ask either. Resident correspondence, there was 2. Charlie Bradbury commented on bylaw 455, basically expressing her support for the Baysmart. She's basically supported the Baysmart Committee and commented on bylaw 455, suggesting that nothing should change. We shouldn't be changing that. And she's supportive of the time slot pickups. And then there was one from Penny Nelson, who sent us the IAP2. For those that haven't seen it before, 7 core values of public participation. And I'm sure we all saw that. We chose to read it or not, I don't know. Penny's presented this to every council so far, and I'm sure she will continue to do so when she thinks we don't follow it. So that's that.
Ask staff how we added that to the agenda, and I know in the past when items have been asked to be added late, the response was bring it and put it on the table.
That was something that came into the mailbox on the Wednesday, for whatever reason, I can't recall now. The deputy corporate officer didn't pick it up, not sure why. So it was submitted on time.
There has been items before that were submitted on time, but were unfortunately didn't get in because of whatever happened. And I know the response at that time was put them on table. And then unfortunately what happens is when they come late on table, they sometimes get turned down. So you're saying that it is okay to repost things if they were submitted earlier, and that'll continue moving forward?
Well, what I'm saying is that piece of correspondence was submitted on time to make the agenda. It wasn't the individual's faux pas, if you will. It was staff glitch that dropped the ball, so staff sort of.
If I can maybe help, maybe part of the reason was that the agenda got reissued anyway because the budget got changed. Budget sheets got changed, got reissued for another reason.
Well, multiple reasons, I guess.
And that's what's ended up going in.
Okay. Anything else before we move on? No, okay, no new business.
There was that new business item that we already discussed, actually, never mind.
crime activity. We missed that.
That was,
Well, that was enclosed for some, yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
can't remember why.
Sorry.
Well,
Hold on, my sheet.
Are we gonna try to go back into closed?
You have 10 minutes.
Could we?
Okay, before we do that, why don't we do public questions and comments, and then we'll move right into close. Okay, anyone online or in the gallery?
thank you, David.
Anyone online would like to comment?
Weigh in. Thank you for hanging into this.
Okay,
I'm not seeing anybody.
no hands up. Thank you very much to everyone for your participation today. With that, motion to move into closed.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
yes.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay.
I'm going to
Stop the recording and start it again.
Thank you very much to everyone, gallery included, and staff and council. Motion to adjourn the meeting. Nothing to report out of closed. Motion to adjourn. Sorry. Councillor Cunliffe, seconded by Councillor Abbott. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes,
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
all right. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening. I'm being summoned home.